Chapter 2303. Yun Shanzi suddenly felt the Tao sound filling his head, and he instantly had an epiphany. He suddenly broke through the psychological barrier and directly rushed into the Paong realm, becoming a demigod. In the sky, the tribulation clouds were getting thicker. Yun Shanzi will never forget the kindness of Senior. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely repay it. However, Gao Qingye's matter involves the reputation of my martial sect. This junior is also very embarrassed. I hope you can understand. I will take my leave first. Yun Shanzi looked embarrassed. Yi Shiwen had helped him a little, but this time it was related to the reputation of the martial sect. If Gao Qingye was not in the right, he would not be so upset. However, Gao Qingye was in the right, which made him extremely confused. However, now was not the time to talk about it. The heavenly tribulation had arrived, and it was not suitable for martial sect to undergo the tribulation. He hurriedly flew out of the martial sect. Yi Shiwen nodded and did not say much. Everyone looked at Yi Shiwen as if they were looking at a monster. It was simply a miracle, especially in their hearts. They did not know that one could have an epiphany by being scolded. How could there be such a good thing? If they could have an epiphany by being scolded, then they could have been scolded every day. Epiphany was something that even these geniuses might not encounter in their lives. Yi Shiwen smiled faintly. Naturally, it was not because of being scolded that he could have an epiphany. Otherwise, wouldn't everyone in this world be able to have an epiphany? Instead, he had used the Tao voice during the process of shouting. Under the guidance of the Tao voice, Yun Shanzi was able to break through. However, he was originally only one step away. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break through after being scolded. Although Yun Shanzi was aggressive, Yi Shiwen did not have much ill will towards him. Yun Shanzi could also be said to be loyal to the martial sect. At most, they just had different standpoints. This was also because Yun Shanzi still had a trace of guilt in his heart. If he did not have this trace of guilt in his heart, he might even be scared silly by Yi Shiwen's shout. This was a personal opportunity that could not be forced. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen realized that he had already gone from being bestowed an opportunity by others to being bestowed an opportunity by others. The vicissitudes of life seemed to be still vivid in his mind. The way everyone looked at Yi Shiwen was even more mysterious. This kind of thing that could enlighten others was almost like a myth. Only in ancient myths and legends would such a thing happen. Gao Qingye was even more shocked. Yun Shanzi's strength was much more tyrannical than his. In these hundreds of years, he had also heard that Yun Shanzi had an extremely high position in the martial sect and was extremely famous. He was only a step away from stepping into the realm of the legendary half-god, yet his own master had shouted at him. It was simply unimaginable just how powerful his master was. It was much more powerful than he had imagined. Lu Bufan, who was watching from the side, gnashed his teeth in anger. He was also being scolded, but why was it that he was scolded so harshly and lost all his face, while Yun Shanzi was the one who got off easy? He had actually stepped into the demigod realm in one go. In the heavenly realm, the demigods were not small characters. Because it was impossible for the gods to manage things all the time, although the demigods could only be regarded as the middle level of the sect, in reality, all the matters of the sect were controlled by the demigods. Many profound realm experts were unable to step into the demigod realm in their entire lives, but he was actually able to rush into the demigod realm despite being scolded. This was 2F** king unscientific. How could those who had cultivated hard for their entire lives endure this? He looked at Gao Qingye with even more resentment. Why was he so lucky? Gao Jianye, and you don't think that you can stay after making some noise. Even if Yun Shanzi doesn't look for trouble with you, you are still not welcome in the martial sect, Lu Bufan said while gnashing his teeth and pointing at Gao Jianye and Yi Shiwen. Don't point at me, or I'll let you know why flowers are so red, Yi Shiwen said indifferently. You! Lu Bufan was startled. He was frightened by Yi Shiwen. When Yi Shiwen reprimanded Yun Shanzi just now, he still felt a little scared when he thought about it. Although his rationality had been blinded by anger, his body instinctively did not dare to point at Yi Shiwen. He had a faint feeling that if he did not do as he was told, Yi Shiwen might really attack him on the spot. You're really lawless, lawless. Where do you think this is? This is the martial sect. Lu Bufan was furious. What are you arguing about? Suddenly, a figure walked out from the depths of the martial sect. It was an old man with white hair and a beard. He wore a rich robe and had an arrogant expression as he looked at everyone disdainfully. Do you know if you can bear the responsibility if you disturb the lords inside? Greetings, Elder Yuan. When everyone saw this old man, they all saluted. Obviously, they all knew this old man, and his status was not low. Elder Yuan glanced around and saw that only Yi Shiwen and Gao Qingyan next to him did not move at all. He suddenly felt a little unhappy. He was used to being high and mighty. At this time, he encountered two people who did not give him any face at all. Naturally, he was unhappy. Who are you two? Elder Yuan asked directly. Elder Yuan, that person is Gao Qingye, Lu Bufan said directly. As soon as he heard this name, Elder Yuan's eyes suddenly flashed, and he said on the spot, You are Gao Qingye? Unlike Yun Shangzi, this Elder Yuan's expression was even more unfriendly and stern. That's right, Gao Qingye said. How dare you? How dare you? Elder Yuan seemed to be extremely angry, and then he said with a smile, Don't you know what you have done? How dare you appear in the martial sect? I think you really think that our martial sect is a charity? What else can Qingye do? He just got rid of an evil creature who has brought disaster to the world. Is there anything wrong with that? Yi Shiwen said aloud. Who are you? Elder Yuan's eyes were full of killing intent. Yi Shiwen could even feel that if this was not in public, this Elder Yuan would really have the intention to kill. I am Gao Qingye's master. Yi Shiwen stood up and said. Elder Yuan did not seem to expect that Yi Shiwen was actually Gao Qingye's master. It seemed that they had already warned all the sects before not to accept Gao Qingye. He narrowed his eyes, and his killing intent became even stronger. The aura on his body directly surged like a monstrous wave. Everyone in the square suddenly felt a thunderous power surging out and directly added to their bodies. Many people suddenly felt a sense of suffocation. Even if it was not directed at them, they could still feel this earth-shattering power. The powerful aura belonging to the peak of demigod suddenly swept out, making everyone feel that they could not resist it. Although he was not a god, he looked like a god at this moment. Yi Shiwen just took a step forward, and that earth-shattering aura was completely broken. It could not affect Yi Shiwen in the slightest. Gao Qingye felt that the suffocating feeling was like his whole body was about to be squashed. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. Suddenly, he felt that his back was completely drenched, and a chill rushed from the soles of his feet to his head. This was the strength of the top experts in the heaven realm. In front of them, he simply had no power to fight back. In an instant, he was like a drowning person, suffocating. The gap between the two sides was really too big. This was a completely different feeling. Although Lu Fan was in the heaven realm, he could not give him such a feeling. It was simply like the powerlessness of an ant in front of a giant. Facing an existence that could trample him to death with one foot, he could not calm down. However, immediately after Yi Shiwen broke the aura, it immediately made him feel like he was saved. There is no need to test me. If you have the ability, then make your move. Let everyone see that the martial great sect, as an outstanding talent of the human race, actually has such an ugly side. There is such a time when there is such a dirty side, Yi Shiwen said, staring at Elder Yuan without the slightest change. What nonsense are you talking about? Elder Yuan suddenly became furious and angrily rebuked. You know whether I am talking nonsense or not. This matter is fair, and there will naturally be people to judge. Your martial great sect is strong, so naturally no one would dare to say anything openly. However, can you stop the mouth of the world? Yi Shiwen said loudly, his voice also getting louder and louder, like a whip lashing at the bottom of people's hearts. The expressions of the surrounding people also became strange, as if to confirm Yi Shiwen's words. It was better to prevent the mouth of the people than to prevent the mouth of the world. On the surface, they did not say it, but in private they would still mention this matter. They could stop others from talking nonsense, but could they pay attention to others and not let their thoughts run wild? At this time, Lu Bufan said loudly, "Elder Yuan, I think this person's origin is unknown. He is simply here to cause trouble. He probably wants to destroy Senior Brother Qin's Dao confirmation ceremony. He should be eliminated very early." At this time, Lu Bufan said loudly. Elder Yuan seemed to have finally reacted, as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. His expression changed on the spot, and he said with a grim smile, "Yes, that is right. This is Qin Lai's Dao confirmation ceremony, so you can't destroy it. Moreover, you keep saying that you are here to discredit our martial great sect. You are simply being instructed by someone to frame our martial great sect. There must be someone behind this. This matter is related to the reputation of our martial great sect, so I can't ignore it. I think the two of you have clearly planned this. I think we should first arrest you and carefully interrogate you to find out which forces are behind this. If you want to blame someone, you can always find a pretext." Yi Shiwen sneered and said, "Today, I finally see what it means to confuse black and white and falsely accuse others. Nonsense, who do you two think you are? What is there for me to falsely accuse you? It is too late for you to escape now. Obediently go back with me, accept the investigation, and confess to the mastermind behind this." Elder Yuan said with a grim smile, and his expression became more and more certain. Chapter 2304. The Way to Treat a Guest. You don't have to pay attention to the way to treat a guest. Lu Bufan shouted from the side. "Disciple, the world is really full of vicissitudes. However, he is indeed a good seedling. Congratulations." Qin Lai sighed with emotion. When they first met Yi Shiwen, he was just a famous profound realm master. Now his strength was unfathomable. Moreover, this matter was personally asked by the Elder Master. It shows that the Elder Master attaches great importance to this matter. With a loud sound, bone fragments flew everywhere and golden blood splattered everywhere. Elder Yuan let out a blood-curdling scream and quickly pulled his hand back. He didn't know when, but a huge bloody hole had appeared on his palm. Blood flowed out continuously, and the bloody wound looked exceptionally hideous. It was not an ordinary attack. He could heal himself in a short time. There was no need to worry about anything else. Now, where Yi Shiwen attacked, he clearly felt an extremely strong power like a bone-corroding maggot. It was constantly eroding his body. He had no choice but to suppress it. Humph! Yi Shiwen took a step forward and pointed his finger. The sky-severing finger instantly turned into a sharp light and flew on the spot. Moreover, it directly penetrated Elder Yuan's dragon claw. No wonder this person was so calm. It turned out that he was a guest invited by Qin Lai. Was there anyone more important than this? However, the result was easily seen through by Yi Shiwen's finger. How could this not make him shocked and angry? Humph. Is this the way of martial sex guests? I heard that Qin Lai had proven his Dao, so I came to celebrate. In the end, I was repeatedly embarrassed by you. Martial sex way of treating guests is a little too overbearing. Yi Shiwen sneered faintly. As for whether there is a place for me, you don't have to worry about it. You can't care so much. You are just a demigod. Don't you think you were a little too overbearing? You shut up. It was completely unscientific. Qin Lai, this person is Gao Qingye, Elder Yuan said with a sullen face. He reminded Qin Lai loudly, as if he wanted to remind him of something. When Elder Yuan saw Qin Lai, it was as if he had seen his savior. He was overjoyed. This guy was finally going to die. It must be known that he also cultivated an extremely powerful body training method passed down by the Qin Emperor. With this method, the masters in the martial arts grandmaster could be said to be able to fight against dragons and phoenixes. Their bodies were comparable to divine weapons and sharp weapons. Good. You actually dared to resist arrest. You actually dared to make a move in our martial sect. In this world, there will be no place for you to hide. Elder Yuan endured the intense pain and said with a sinister smile. Everyone was shocked and quickly greeted him. This was also one of the most powerful techniques in the martial arts sect. Everyone focused their eyes and saw that it was a spirited young man. Who else could it be but Qin Lai? It was as if he had encountered a peerless, ferocious beast. Lu Bufon's face flushed with anger after being reprimanded by Yi Shiwen. Qin Lai finally turned his gaze to Elder Yuan. He did not even look at Elder Yuan's wound. Instead, he opened his mouth and said, "Elder Yuan, do you want to order me around?" There was a bit of disgust in his expression. This Elder Yuan had always taken advantage of his seniority. He relied on his experience and often said some nonsense, which was annoying. "Don't force me to kill you. If I want to kill you, even your sage lord of Jade Void can't stop me," Yi Shiwen said coldly. In an instant, it was as if he had encountered a terrifying, ferocious beast. His whole body was instantly drenched, as if he had been fished out of cold water. Things were still the same, but the people were different. Originally, the status of both parties was basically equal. Although Qin Lai's status was higher, Elder Yuan's experience was greater. However, now that Qin Lai had proven his way, everything was different. Lu Bufon and Elder Yuan were even more dumbfounded. They looked as if they had been scared out of their wits. This didn't make sense. They thought that Qin Lai was here to support them. Who would have thought that Qin Lai was actually a good friend of the other party? Clearly, he was here to support them. Qin Lai's expression gradually became cold. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, he said directly, "Don't talk nonsense in front of me about your Yuan family's *T. Do you think we don't know about it? Do you know how all the sects think of us because of your matter? We don't want to talk about it anymore. It's just that your ancestor has made great contributions to the martial arts sect and the human clan that we don't want to talk about it. I didn't expect you to be so persistent. Why? Do you want to kill him? Do you want to ruin the reputation of our martial arts sect?" However, it was different now. He had proven his way and was on a different level from Elder Yuan. Qualifications and experience were completely meaningless at this time. Arrogant. Lu Bufon's face turned red as he squeezed out this sentence. However, he did not dare to act recklessly. He could almost feel that Yi Shiwen's killing intent was about to materialize. At this time, Elder Yuan finally reacted. The Qin Lai in front of him was no longer a junior that he could casually gossip about. Instead, he was an adult who had proven his way above him. However, his heart was already in turmoil. With his physical cultivation, he was actually unable to repair the bloody hole in his hand. This made him even more shocked. Qin Lai gradually walked over and walked in front of Yi Shiwen and Elder Yuan. Just when everyone thought that Yi Shiwen and Elder Yuan were going to be in trouble and were going to be dealt with by Qin Lai personally, something that shocked everyone happened. "Qin Lai, this guy is Gao Qingye." Elder Yuan pointed at Gao Qingye and said while covering his bleeding palm. With Qin Lai's current status, although he had just proven his way, his status in the Heaven Realm was already completely different. Those who could be personally invited by him were, without exception, old monsters who had proven their way for many years. "Kid, don't be arrogant. Where do you think this is? Is this a place where you can act presumptuously?" Elder Yuan was furious. This guy was still so arrogant in this situation. Elder Yuan was about to refute, but Qin Lai did not give him a chance at all. Instead, he said coldly, "Stop talking nonsense. Today is my way-proving ceremony. Don't talk nonsense. Whoever causes trouble here today is not giving me face. Whoever makes me unhappy for a moment, I will make him suffer for the rest of his life." It was simply unimaginable that this was a murderous aura that a person could emit. If it was not for the fact that he had broken Elder Yuan's attack with a finger, everyone would have regarded him as a harmless person. Who would have thought that he was actually so terrifying? With a gloomy face, he endured the pain from his palm and said, "Of course I wouldn't dare to do that. However, this person is suspected of slandering our martial sect in public. I'm afraid that this is a premeditated act, so I want to lock him up and interrogate him properly." Just as he was about to inform the sect, suddenly, he saw a figure jump out from the depths of the martial sect. It was earth-shattering and landed in front of everyone. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? The scene that they thought would be like Mars colliding with Earth did not happen. On the contrary, the two of them were still talking happily. It was obvious that they had known each other for a long time. Especially that finger technique, it was simply amazing. They had never seen anyone with such amazing attainments in finger technique. Yi Shiwen shouted coldly, and Lu Bufan immediately became silent out of fear. He immediately quieted down. Qin Lai's words became heavier and heavier, causing Elder Yuan's face to be filled with anger. He was shocked and furious at the same time. He did not expect that Qin Lai would not give him any face in public, and it was also because Qin Lai was unparalleled. In front of the gods who had proven their Tao, demigods were like ants. Elder Yuan was shocked and angry. Yi Shiwen actually dared to resist arrest, and his strength was extremely strong, easily breaking his dragon claw. Qin Lai stepped forward and laughed heartily. When did you come to the Heaven Realm? Why didn't you let anyone inform me? Ha! A great genius like you is able to attend my Tao confirmation celebration. It's really an honor. This guy in front of him did not show any strength, and he could not see through his strength at all. Just where did he come from? Everyone who was watching from the side also gasped. Martial great masters had endless martial arts, tyrannical strength, and many trump cards. Therefore, the masters cultivated by martial great masters were almost invincible in the same realm. Even with Elder Yuan's strength at the peak of demigod, his dragon claw was actually broken by a finger. Where did this young man come from? And how could he be so strong? The masters and representatives of the major forces were also secretly speechless. A mere demigod, who would dare to say such words? The mastermind behind this, you think too highly of yourself, Yi Shiwen said with a sneer. I'm not prepared for yours, so we're even. Qin Lai laughed and said. Although he did not meet Yi Shiwen many times, the relationship between the two was really good. Both were heavenly talents of the human race. It was inevitable that there would be some feelings of sympathy. I've already said it. Don't be so shameless, Qin Lai said coldly, and then said to Yi Shiwen, let's go in. If I knew you were coming, I would have come out to greet you. Ha ha ha, it's my honor, but this Gao Qingye is yours. Bang. Don't talk nonsense. I'll bring him back for investigation first, Elder Yuan said with a cold snort. After saying that, Elder Yuan directly laughed, and on the spot, a dragon claw grabbed towards Yi Shiwen and Yi Shiwen, as if it was a cage that imprisoned the heavens. Where did this young man come from? Such a change in identity made it a little difficult for him to adapt. A mere demigod. Elder Yuan was so angry that he laughed. Although he was not a master of Tao validation in the heaven realm, with his identity as a follower of martial great master, his status was also noble. How could he be called a mere demigod? I've just arrived, and I was caught by the elders of your sect, and it happened to be your Tao validation celebration. So I didn't prepare anything, and came empty-handed, Yi Shiwen said with a grin. He is my disciple, Yi Shiwen replied. Chapter 2305. Many years ago, Yi Shiwen had just stepped into the mysterious realm. So, he could only be regarded as a middle-level expert in the mysterious world. However, he was now an immortal realm expert, so he could be regarded as a high-level expert in any world. That was why Qin Lai dared to be rude to Elder Yuan. No matter how powerful a demigod was, it was not enough to be mentioned in the same breath as a Tao validation expert who had existed since ancient times. Demigod experts were like leeks that grew in waves and died in waves. This was especially true for humans. Since they could not prove their Tao, their lifespan was no more than 10,000 years. Due to various internal injuries from battles and various other reasons, ordinary demigods could only live for a few thousand years. In contrast, only the gods who had existed since ancient times were the fundamental guarantee for an immortal inheritance to prosper. Now, Yi Shiwen had also begun to accept disciples. It was like a new era had arrived. Leave your disciple outside. When the time comes, someone will naturally guide him to their seats. Come with me, Qin Lai said. All right. Yi Shiwen glanced at Gao Qingye and said, I'll look for you when I come out. Don't worry. He pointed a finger. An array of light entered Gao Qingye's body. Then, he turned around and followed Qin Lai into the depths of the martial sect. Passing through layers of space, the two came directly to a huge hall. In the depths of the hall, dozens of tyrannical auras were revealed. They were all gods who had achieved Tao validation. They were representatives of major forces and sects within the martial sect. All of them were existences who had achieved Tao validation or above. Only existences who had achieved Tao validation were qualified to enter this hall. The others had to be somewhere else. Naturally, there would be someone to entertain them. When Yi Shiwen and Elder Yuan entered the hall, they immediately attracted the attention of many gods who were chatting happily. Especially Qin Lai, who was fully deserving of being the star of the show today. Yet, he had abandoned everyone present to receive such a young junior. Even if he seemed to have achieved Tao validation, there was no need for him to personally welcome them. However, what surprised them even more was that Yi Shiwen was actually arranged to sit under Qin Lai. It could be said that Qin Lai respected him very much. Everyone's eyes flickered to Yi Shiwen. They seemed to want to know who this person was and why Qin Lai treated him so well. The information of various experts who had achieved Tao validation in the immortal inheritance flashed through their minds, but none of them could match the person in front of them. It seemed that there was no such powerful existence in his memories. Qin Lai had no intention of explaining himself. He simply sat back down on his throne, raised his cup, and said loudly, "It is my honor to have all of you attend my celebration. Everyone, please have a toast." Everyone raised their cups and drank. The wine that the martial arts sect used to entertain their guests was naturally not rice wine, but wine that contained rich energy. If one took a sip, their cultivation would increase greatly. It was not something that ordinary people could digest. Ordinary people might even explode and die on the spot. Yi Shiwen also revolved the observing person scripture a few times and completely digested the energy contained in the wine. He sighed in his heart. The martial sect was indeed worthy of being the leader of the various powers in the human clan. This kind of foundation and strength was far from what the other powers could compare to. Everyone toasted each other. No one knew what they were thinking, but at least on the surface, it was a happy and harmonious scene. Suddenly, he heard a loud explosion coming from outside. Then his heart suddenly jumped. A burst of divine radiance suddenly exploded in front of him. Not good. Yi Shiwen's expression changed. He immediately flew out and rushed out. Many of the gods present were a little dumbfounded at this time. What was going on? Qin Lai was stunned, but he immediately reacted. His expression suddenly became ugly, and he took a step out. Behind him, the old beggar followed closely and rushed out. Yi Shiwen took the lead and rushed out. He saw that the square was in a mess. The place where many banquets had been placed was now completely messed up. Many people were staggering, and it was a mess. Who else could it be but Gao Qingye, who had fallen to the ground in the center of the square? Above Gao Qingye, a beautiful middle-aged woman in a palace dress looked coldly at Gao Qingye, who had already fallen to the ground. Her slender white palms also had traces of blood, having been shaken by the recoil just now. She didn't expect that she would be injured when she was just trying to kill a nobody. It was a miracle. Yi Shiwen looked at the situation in front of him and saw the surging spiritual power of the middle-aged woman in the palace dress. How could he not know what was going on? Perhaps this middle-aged woman in the palace dress wanted to kill Gao Qingye, which triggered the restriction that Yi Shiwen had left on Gao Qingye's body. It triggered the rebound and caused a violent explosion. Because there were many dangers in the martial sect, Yi Shiwen could not be completely at ease. Therefore, he left a restriction in Gao Qingye's body. Originally, it was just a thought, but he did not expect it to really come in handy. He suddenly became furious, but fortunately, he glanced at Gao Qingye. With the protection of the restriction that he had left, he was not killed on the spot. If not for the restriction, he was afraid that he would be killed on the spot. Let's see how you resist. The beautiful middle-aged woman in the palace dress snorted coldly, and a dragon claw directly grabbed down towards Gao Qingye. This kind of firm and fierce dragon claw in her hands was much more powerful than the average man's. In an instant, the sky suddenly changed, and this dragon claw seemed to tear the sky apart. When this level of expert attacked, suddenly the world was filled with a tragic atmosphere. The other people in the square seemed to be suppressed by Mount Tai. They could not move at all. Even breathing was difficult. However, with a cold snort, another fist soared into the sky, rushing towards the beautiful middle-aged woman in palace attire, breaking her dragon claw on the spot. "Who are you?" The middle-aged woman in the palace dress looked at Yi Shiwen, and her eyes flashed with an extremely dangerous look, as if there was thunder roaring in her eyes. "Who are you? Why did you attack my disciple?" Yi Shiwen said coldly. "You really disappoint me. We have come to visit a dignified martial sect, but we have been attacked several times. Do you really think that we are easy to bully?" Yi Shiwen glanced at the crowd and saw that behind the middle-aged woman in the palace dress was Elder Yuan. At this time, Elder Yuan was looking at him with hatred, as if he could not wait to kill him with a sword. "Are you his master?" The middle-aged woman in the palace dress sneered. Good, good, good. Just in time to settle the old and new accounts together." Yi Shiwen was not polite either. The spiritual power in his body surged, confronting the middle-aged woman in the palace dress, not giving in at all. This made the people in the square miserable. Under the aura of the two experts, they were almost crushed. It was really a fight between immortals, and mortals suffered. "Stop, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. What are you doing?" When the battle between the two was about to start, Qin Lai jumped out from the depths of martial sect. He glanced at the surrounding situation, and then saw Elder Yuan. How could he not know that this was related to Elder Yuan? He glared at him fiercely, then turned to Senior Immortal Yuan Miao and said, "Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, are you trying to ruin my place?" "Qin Lai, today's matter has nothing to do with you. Don't get involved." Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's eyes were full of killing intent, nailing Yi Shiwen and Gao Qingye. Taking advantage of this time, Yi Shiwen had already saved Gao Qingye with Phoenix regeneration technique. "Master, this disciple is useless," Gao Qingye said with a face full of guilt. "It's okay. This has nothing to do with you. That bitch is not someone ordinary people can deal with." Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said, "Today, I only want to kill the two of them." Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's beautiful eyes were extremely cold. "Ah, it has nothing to do with me?" Qin Lai was so angry that he laughed. His eyes were even more unfriendly. "Today is my Dao validation celebration. You want to touch the guests I invited and kill them at my celebration. In the end, you tell me that it has nothing to do with me. Do you really think that I can be bullied? Or something else?" Qin Lai's anger was also extremely strong. He had just told Yi Shiwen that it didn't matter and asked him to leave his disciple outside. How long had it been, and now something had happened? It was like a slap to his face. Moreover, it was a fierce slap to his face. His face was burning hot. "Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, I'm telling you, I will protect these two people today. You can try," Qin Lai said angrily. "Qin Lai, I'm giving face to your family name, but it doesn't mean that you can yell at me and tell me what to do. When I was Dao validation, you were still playing with mud." Senior Immortal Yuan Miao immediately stopped maintaining her gentle face and said directly, "Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, do you think I don't know? You still want to avenge your dead son, but you absolutely can't." Qin Lai shook his head and said, "Your son has done all kinds of bad things in the mortal world. He cultivates evil martial arts, causing thousands of people to suffer. Such an evil creature, it's fine if he doesn't ascend. If he does, I will smash his head with one slap. At that time, you will also come to settle the score with me. Do you know how much criticism and disdain our martial sect has suffered because of your son's matter? The reputation of martial sect that our ancestors have painstakingly built up cannot be destroyed by you." Only then did Yi Shiwen know that this Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was the mother of the guy that Gao Qingye killed before. No wonder she wanted to kill Gao Qingye and Yi Shiwen like a madman. For such a woman, there was no reason to speak of. Chapter 2306. It was no wonder that the matter was so complicated. It must be related to the Yuan family, a powerful family in martial sect. Otherwise, it would not be so difficult to handle, because the twists and turns were already very obvious. However, as long as a big shot was involved in this world, everything that was originally simple would become complicated. Even martial sect, a sect that claimed to be the pillar of the human race, was no exception. That's easy for you to say. That's the only son of my dead husband. He just killed a few people. So what? Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's face was abnormally mournful. She was as pale as a ghost. In the square, the crowd was in an uproar. How could this not cause an uproar? At their level of cultivation, many people didn't really care about ordinary people. However, this kind of thing couldn't be said out loud. Even if they were inconspicuous like ants, it was still a heinous sin to kill tens of millions of people in one go. Shut up! What nonsense are you talking about? Qin Lai was furious and yelled, "Aren't you afraid that I will ruin Marshall Sect's reputation? I will kill him today. From now on, I will withdraw from Marshall Sect. What I do has nothing to do with Marshall Sect anymore." Senior Immortal Yuan Miao sneered coldly. Her smile was extremely mournful. In order to avenge her son, she had gone crazy like a demon that had fallen into hell. Qin Lai, you don't have to say anything more. This crazy woman is already crazy. It's useless to say anything more to her. Yi Shiwen stood up and said, "From the beginning, this matter had been continuous and endless. He had long been tired of it. He was very tired of it. If you want to touch my disciple, I will die first. If you want to fight, then come out and stop talking nonsense." Yi Shiwen stepped out and turned into a stream of light on the spot. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao just glanced at Gao Qingye hatefully and said, "I'll deal with you later." The two rushed out of Marshall's sect and flew into the clouds high in the sky. Boom! Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's spiritual power surged in an instant. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled around him. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. The law of thunder surged out. Swish! Senior Immortal Yuan Miao grabbed towards the void, and a long saber appeared on the spot. This was not an ordinary long saber at all. It was condensed from the power of thunder. It was completely condensed from the law of thunder. Even an ordinary god would have to take a few steps back when faced with this blade. What was even more terrifying was that Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's saber completely split the sky in half. Yi Shiwen opened the eyes of redemption and clearly saw that there was a huge thunderbolt talisman in Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's body. It was this thunderbolt talisman that allowed Senior Immortal Yuan Miao to display her thunder technique to the extreme. Ordinary gods had to retreat, otherwise they would be killed by her saber. At the same time, just as Venerable Yuan Miao's saber slashed down towards Yi Shiwen, another Thunder Holy technique descended. This Thunder Holy technique contained the aura of heaven's retribution. Yi Shiwen finally saw that the aura of heaven contained in this sacred technique came from the Thunder Talisman in Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's body. He almost instantly deduced that Venerable Yuan Miao was actually using a Thunderbolt Talisman to collect the lightning tribulations within the heavenly tribulation. All the lightning tribulations within the heavenly tribulation were collected together, which was why they could form such amazing power. This was just like how he used Tianyuan Mirror to collect the heavens thunder tribulation and underworld water in the gods tribulation. This was a rare technique. However, this was not something that ordinary people could do, especially the underworld water in the gods tribulation. It could even corrode divine tools. Only Tianyuan Mirror could contain the underworld water. What was the origin of this talisman? It could even collect the heavens thunder tribulation. It should be known that the energy in the thunder tribulation was secondary. The most important thing was that there was the will of heaven's tribulation in it. This was the most difficult part. The will of heaven's tribulation could even destroy ordinary divine tools on the spot. Obviously, this thunder talisman was not simple. With one slash, the sky fell and the earth cracked. The aftermath of this battle directly shocked the entire Marshall sect. Countless divine thoughts swept over, paying attention to this battle. Under this slash, Yi Shiwen did not move at all. Everyone thought that Yi Shiwen was stupid. What a strong slash. Sure enough, the legendary Thunder Talisman in his body is infinitely powerful. That's the Thunder Talisman that his grandfather personally asked His Majesty Emperor Qin for. It's infinitely powerful. I don't know if Yi Shiwen can take it, but it's hard to say. No matter how powerful Yi Shiwen is, it's hard to say if he encounters Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao has gone crazy for his son. He's completely crazy. Oh no! Qin Lai suddenly became anxious. Venerable Immortal Yuan Miao proved his Tao even earlier than when I was born. Now, he has even entered the advanced immortal level. Although Yi Shiwen has proved his Tao, he is at most in the beginner immortal level. How are we going to deal with him? Don't worry. I'm afraid the little friend you know is not that simple. However, he was stopped by the old beggar next to him. Compared to Qin Lai, the old beggar was much more confident in Yi Shiwen. This little friend was not that simple. Everyone's heart suddenly tensed up. Who do you think you are? How dare you do this? Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was burning with anger. The long saber condensed from the power of thunder in his hand grew longer and larger with infinite power. Yi Shiwen's expression did not change. He slowly made his move. Although it looked very slow, it was actually as fast as lightning. It was so fast that it was uncomfortable to watch. Boom! In an instant, Yi Shiwen's palm hit the long thunder saber. This was a shocking collision. Both sides made a shocking sound, and a dazzling light burst out. Beams of divine light rushed up into the sky. The power of thunder instantly surged out and spread in all directions. However, the scene of Yi Shiwen being hacked to death in everyone's imagination didn't happen. On the contrary, the power of those thunderbolts directly fell on Yi Shiwen's body and was then digested. It didn't erupt with astonishing power as they had imagined. How is this possible? Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was furious. She constantly roared and urged the spiritual power of her whole body, using the thunder talisman in her body to blast Yi Shiwen to death in one fell swoop. Her thunder technique had been cultivated to a very amazing level. It could be described as unpredictable and shocking. Coupled with the thunder talisman in her body, her strength was already enough to run amok. Damn it, I don't believe that I can't kill you today. The spiritual power in Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's body exploded, forming a monstrous thunder vortex. This vortex expanded bigger and bigger, blasting towards Yi Shiwen. In the face of the erupting Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, Yi Shiwen's eyes were incomparably calm. Humph! Yi Shiwen snorted coldly. His 5 fingers instantly clenched into a fist, turning into a human path world. It was lifelike, like a real world. There were all kinds of countries in it, and it instantly blasted into the thunder vortex. Boom! Under the watchful eyes of everyone, the thunder vortex shattered inch by inch. The unique skill that Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was proud of was nothing in front of Yi Shiwen's 6 paths of reincarnation fist. Isn't it the demon clan's 6 paths of reincarnation fist? How can it be in his hands? And most importantly, there is no demonic chi at all when he uses it. Martial arts sect had fought with the demon clan for many years. How could they not know about the famous 6 paths of reincarnation fist of the demon clan? However, Yi Shiwen's 6 paths of reincarnation fist was completely different from the Azura clan's 6 paths of reincarnation fist that they had seen before. It didn't have that kind of dense demonic energy. On the contrary, it had a kind of majestic feeling. This was the most strange thing about it. Break for me! Yi Shiwen shouted. The human path world that he blasted out with his fist was still bombarding. The thunder vortex that could barely contend with him collapsed in an instant. Yi Shiwen's fist momentum did not diminish, and once again blasted towards Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. Boom! The aftermath of Yi Shiwen's punch was directly caught by Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. I say, don't underestimate me. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao sneered. Her body also exuded a kind of golden light. It was not the light of divinity, but the light of a special cultivation technique. 99 Profound Soldier Art. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and immediately remembered that martial arts sect's famous physique cultivation technique. He had seen Qin Lai use it once before, but it was not as strong as this time. That's it. I didn't expect a mountain person like you to have heard of it. Watch me send you to hell. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's slender white palm was wrapped in a layer of golden light. It directly penetrated into the void, as if it was tearing the sky apart. The palm momentum carried the infinite power of thunder and instantly slapped down. It was like the power of thunder and lightning. Like Yi Shiwen's tyrant body, the 99 profound soldier art was even more powerful and domineering. It was fully displayed at this moment. The 99 profound soldier art is good, but you crazy woman are still far from it. Yi Shiwen's face was calm. Suddenly, he raised his palm and turned into an unimaginable light that blasted out. Boom! There was a loud noise, like the collision of two huge pieces of gold and iron. The sound was earth-shattering. The fierce power of thunder that erupted tore everything apart. After the attack failed, Yi Shiwen actually took the initiative to attack first. His hands also tore out the power of thunder. What made everyone even more stunned was that the power of thunder that Yi Shiwen's hands tore out also contained the aura of heaven's retribution. It was extremely similar to the power of thunder of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. What's going on? Chapter 2307. What's going on? Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at the power of thunder tearing out of Yi Shiwen's hands. It was extraordinary. Even the gods felt a sense of trembling under such a power of thunder. This was the power of thunder in the deity's tribulation that Yi Shiwen collected back then. Even if one was already a god, facing the deity's tribulation would still make one tremble from the bottom of their heart. What's more, the thunder tribulation that descended during Yi Shiwen's tribulation was far beyond the level of ordinary people. The power of thunder tearing out of Yi Shiwen's hands was condensed from thunder talismans. It was unimaginable that it had the power to tear the world apart. Damn it! At this time, even Senior Immortal Yuan Miao could feel the strong threat brought by Yi Shiwen. Her slender white palm was covered with densely packed scales. These scales were also composed of thunder magic charms. These thunder magic charms recorded the true essence of the law of thunder. An ordinary person could become an expert in the use of thunder and lightning by simply obtaining one of these magic charms. The majesty of endless thunder pervaded the air and formed a huge thunder whirlpool in the sky. Then, this whirlpool pressed down towards Yi Shiwen. Boom! This was the collision of the power of thunder. It was like the collision of two huge waves of the sea, sweeping out in circles. And this was just the beginning. The disaster aura belonging to heaven's tribulation spread out. The huge majesty spread out all at once, crushing the void and shattering the vacuum. Boom! 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 The two fought all the way and rushed into the universe. Such a huge shock alarmed many powerful existences. The aftermath of the battle also caused the world to shake constantly. It was very terrifying. Both of them had god-level combat power. They could shatter the stars with a casual lift of their hands. Neither of them restrained their combat power. They could shatter the galaxy with a wave of their hands. The battle between the two was relatively fierce, especially Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. Although she was a woman, relying on the 9-9 profound weapon technique, she did not give in at all. She fought more fiercely than anyone Yi Shiwen had ever seen. In the past, with the tyrannical strength of Yi Shiwen's tyrant body technique, not many dared to fight him head-on. Sparks flew all the way in the battle between the two, but slowly, Yi Shiwen still gained the upper hand. Human Tao Fist. Yi Shiwen's fist pierced through the blue dome of heaven. The world of humanity suppressed everything. With the help of this base camp of the human race, his might rose to an astonishing level. This is the Human Tao Fist. Impossible. I've seen the Shura tribe's 6 paths of reincarnation fist before. It doesn't have such power. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, whose thunderbolt was dispersed by Yi Shiwen's punch, kept retreating and roaring. Unlike Yi Shiwen, she had been focusing on the cultivation of the thunder law for many years. Although she had also cultivated the 9-9 profound weapon technique, it was nothing compared to her thunder law. His fist technique, palm technique, blade technique, sword technique, the power of thunder, the law of fire. His attacking methods were almost endless. He was constantly changing. What was even more terrifying was that he had cultivated each of them to the pinnacle. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's eyes were full of incredulity. He couldn't believe it at all. How was this possible? Even a god with infinite time would not play like this. Because the same amount of time was concentrated in any one of them, the achievements obtained would far exceed the achievements obtained by spreading the time. What was even more terrifying was that Yi Shiwen's 6 paths of reincarnation fist gave him a great deal of pressure, especially in the heavenly realm. The human Tao fist of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist could be said to be like a fish in water here. Faintly, it even received the power of the heavenly realm's laws, making his power even more powerful. To be able to cultivate to this point, he was probably not simple. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was not the only one who was shocked. Even the martial arts sect and the Tao validation experts of the major forces were shocked and dumbfounded. Especially the Jade Void Sage Master. He was even more shocked. He had fought with Yi Shiwen once before, but at that time, he only felt that Yi Shiwen was unfathomable. He couldn't figure out Yi Shiwen's foundation, which was enough to make him extremely fearful. Otherwise, with his dignified identity as the Jade Void Sage Master, how could he let it go when he was ignored like this? However, he never expected that Yi Shiwen would be strong to this extent. His aura was terrifying. If it were him, he would have been defeated at this time. Yi Shiwen had almost no weaknesses. He had infinite strength and great momentum. He was proficient in all kinds of law martial arts to a terrifying extent. Moreover, his movement technique was excellent and his speed was extremely fast. He was almost a monster with no weaknesses. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's strength was still above him, but under Yi Shiwen's attack, he had already begun to fall into a disadvantageous position. If it were him, he would probably be in a worse situation. After breaking through the thunder vortex of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, Yi Shiwen took a step forward and rushed directly in front of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao in an instant. He blasted his fist out again. For him, this move had not been used at all. For Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, the power of his fist was almost endless. It was continuous like waves with infinite power. Even if he was only using the human Tao fist, it was already tyrannical and terrifying. Above Yi Shiwen's head, a world of the human clan appeared. Originally, it was just a relatively blurry world with no special characteristics. However, at this time, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was horrified to find that the human Tao fist that Yi Shiwen blasted out had evolved into a world that gradually evolved into the appearance of the heaven realm. The mountains, rivers, astronomy, and geography had almost begun to approach the appearance of the heaven realm. This discovery suddenly made her a little frightened. How is this possible? As the world above Yi Shiwen's head continued to become more like the heaven realm, the power of the human Tao fist that Yi Shiwen blasted out was also greater. It was as if he had faintly completed the fusion with the heaven realm and borrowed the power of the heaven realm. And his vision was not wrong. Yi Shiwen was actually borrowing the power of the heaven realm. He did not achieve Tao in the heaven realm, so there was no fetters or involvement for the heaven realm. However, with the help of the human Tao fist, he actually completed the connection with the heaven realm. This was the most difficult thing. He was also extremely excited in his heart. This meant that the power of the human Tao fist might be even stronger. It might even surpass all of his martial arts and become the most powerful martial art he had so far. Moreover, in the heaven realm, this power would be even more obvious. In his world, a white rainbow soared into the sky. The space between the heavens and the earth was covered, completely replaced by the light that erupted from him. As soon as he made his move, he blasted out a complete human Tao world. Crack, crack! In front of him, those thunder talismans shattered and disintegrated, disappearing from Yi Shiwen's human Tao world. Many of them were even absorbed by him. It could be said that in front of him, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was simply retreating. Go to hell! Facing Yi Shiwen's constant pressure, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was not a kind person. Her eyes suddenly opened, and around her body, a green lotus actually appeared. Under the contrast of this green lotus, she looked even more noble and unparalleled. The aura that represented a kind of tribulation instantly exuded. As soon as this green lotus appeared, Yi Shiwen immediately felt a strong threat. This green lotus represented a kind of doomsday tribulation aura. The aura of rebirth after the tribulation was also getting stronger. Green Lotus Sacred Technique. Yi Shiwen's eyes suddenly opened wide. This was the martial sect's Emperor Qin's famous lost technique, the Blue Lotus Holy Technique. Once this holy technique was used, one's own strength would be burned out, and it would erupt with destructive power. Boom! Layers of green light erupted from the green lotus. It actually directly bounced off Yi Shiwen's human Dao power that was suppressing over, preventing it from approaching senior Immortal Yuan Miao's body. At this time, senior Immortal Yuan Miao's body seemed to be burning with a group of flames. This group of flames was in the shape of a green lotus. Looking at it, she looked noble and holy, just like the green lotus saintess. However, only the people of martial sect knew the mystery behind it. It was precisely because they knew the power and flaws of Green Lotus Sacred Technique that not everyone could control Green Lotus Sacred Technique. Even after the transformation of Emperor Qin, this Green Lotus Sacred Technique was still difficult for ordinary people to control. According to the ancestral teachings of martial sect, unless it was a life and death situation, the Green Lotus Sacred Technique was not allowed to be used. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was actually forced to use Green Lotus Sacred Technique. What is the origin of this Yi Shiwen? A martial sect master murmured. As the inheritance of the emperor, the status of martial sect was even higher than that of the king's sect. How could they not feel proud and arrogant? In the same realm, martial sect represented almost invincibility, but senior Immortal Yuan Miao was suppressed to this point by Yi Shiwen, whose realm was far inferior to her. She was even forced to use Green Lotus Sacred Technique. It was inevitable for them to have a feeling of sympathy in their hearts. After all, senior Immortal Yuan Miao was their fellow disciple for thousands of years, and Yi Shiwen was just an outsider. But now that things had come to this, it was useless to say anything. The two of them had obviously gone all out, and it was impossible for them to dissuade them for a while. Above the sky, everyone could see with their naked eyes that countless spiritual energies were rapidly condensing and pouring into the green lotus behind senior Immortal Yuan Miao. The green lotus was also blooming little by little. From the original bud, it quickly bloomed into a stunning and beautiful green lotus. It exuded a kind of heroic and demonic charm, and a sense of doom and annihilation. This was an extremely dangerous feeling. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao grinned, and a crazy look climbed up her beautiful face. On her slender white palm, a kind of flame exuded, forming a green lotus. You can be proud to be able to force me to use Green Lotus Sacred Technique, even if you die. Chapter 2308. This Green Lotus Sacred Technique is really terrifying. Legend has it that this secret technique was obtained by the Qin Emperor. Later on, it was improved by him. Otherwise, other than the Qin Emperor, no one else would be able to use it. Until now, although the people of the martial organization have received the secret technique, they rarely use it. However, I have also heard of the Green Lotus Secret Technique for a long time, but I have never seen it. Rumor has it that with the addition of Green Lotus Sacred Technique, one's strength can be greatly improved. Even the improved version is no exception. This is the secret technique of Emperor Qin. Seeing the Green Lotus Sacred Technique that Senior Yuan Miao burst out, everyone was shocked. Many people also understood what it meant to be forced to use the Green Lotus Sacred Technique. It was almost like being forced to a dead end. After using the Green Lotus Sacred Technique, Senior Yuan Miao's body broke out with countless power, as if she was the only overlord in the world. The green lotus petal bloomed one by one. There were countless worlds inside. The universe was born and destroyed. A scene of a universe was removed. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, or a sea of lava and fire appeared. Senior Yuan Miao's power was getting stronger and stronger. A layer of flame coat appeared around her body. It was completely condensed by the green lotus sacred flame, full of destructive power and destructive power. Today is the day you die. Being forced to this point, Senior Yuan Miao had gone completely crazy. Facing Yi Shiwen, her slender white hands directly tore apart. The boundless power of thunder and lightning fused with the green lotus sacred flame. The power of thunder and fire slammed down towards Yi Shiwen. Boom! The two directly collided with each other. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt that this green lotus sacred flame even rushed up directly. Like a fierce beast, it bit Yi Shiwen's arm and completely devoured his arm. Yi Shiwen retreated again and again. He constantly circulated his spiritual power to destroy this green lotus sacred flame. However, Senior Yuan Miao did not give him the time at all. She directly rushed up on the spot. The green lotus sacred flame was even more blazing. Yi Shiwen retreated again and again. He had been prepared for this. However, the might of the green lotus holy flame was far beyond his imagination. It contained a kind of terrifying, destructive power. He couldn't help but shudder. It wasn't something that an ordinary person could imagine. If not for his tyrant body supporting him, an ordinary person would have already been burned to ashes. What was even more shocking was that this green lotus sacred fire was a double-edged sword. When it burned others, it also burned itself, and at the same time, it was also burned by the green lotus sacred fire. There must be some secret method in the martial sect to prevent itself from being burned to ashes by the green lotus sacred fire. He could only continue to extinguish the green lotus sacred fire. After a long time, he finally extinguished the green lotus sacred fire, but he was already at a complete disadvantage. Facing the crazy senior, immortal Yuan Miao, Yi Shiwen couldn't fight recklessly. The power of the green lotus sacred fire was too great. Damn it! Yi Shiwen let out a loud roar. A demonic aura rushed out of his body and formed a flag that wrapped around him. Then, a raging fire appeared on the surface of his body. It was the Nanmingli fire. Some sharp-eyed people immediately recognized that this was the Nanmingli fire. Many people's eyes flashed with astonishment because there were too many secrets on Yi Shiwen's body. Whether it was the Nanming mythical fire or the 6 paths of reincarnation fist, they were all supreme, secret techniques that belonged to the ancient phoenix realm or the demon realm. Where did he get them from? Moreover, it was so pure. It didn't seem like it was forcefully cultivated after getting a scale. He should have obtained the most correct cultivation method. In particular, wasn't the Nanmingli fire said that only the most authentic bloodline of the Phoenix clan could practice it? How come it didn't seem to be the case at this time? Could it be that Yi Shiwen also had the bloodline of the Phoenix clan? Qin Lai, this little friend you know isn't simple either. The old beggar picked up the wine gourd, took a sip, and said with a sigh. Qin Lai nodded solemnly. Yi Shiwen's methods were much more powerful than his initial guess. Originally, he thought that Yi Shiwen would be defeated by senior immortal Yuan Miao's green lotus sacred fire. Now it seemed that it was not that simple. Sigh, what a misfortune. This was the first time that Yi Shiwen had resorted to a divine tool. This indicated that Yi Shiwen was starting to get serious. It also indicated that such an intense battle a moment ago hadn't been able to move Yi Shiwen even a little bit and force him to use his true strength. This little friend's fighting style seems to be of the same origin as our martial sect. If it wasn't for the fact that his cultivation technique is completely different, I would have even thought that he was a disciple secretly taken in by some supreme expert of our martial sect. The old beggar said with emotion. If this was the case, then it would be great. It was definitely not a bad thing to have such a genius. This was not impossible. In fact, apart from a few of them who cultivated all day long, many of them had not changed their cultivation for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. It was very normal for them to wander around. They could casually give some pointers to a child, and after many years, that child would become an overlord of a world. Such cases could be said to be common, and it was not strange. If this was the case, then it would be great. However, each of the martial arts that Yi Shiwen used was very famous martial arts, completely different from their martial sect, so this could only be regarded as a joke. With the demon summoning banner protecting him, Yishuan suddenly felt much better. There was the Nanming mythical fire on the outside, the demon summoning banner in the middle, and his own tyrant body, which greatly improved his resistance against green lotus sacred fire. Sky flipping seal. He roared and pinched a seal with both hands. His right hand directly turned into a huge seal, and it went towards venerable immortal Yuan Miao in the air. Yishuan's sky flipping seal rolled, and the world shook. It covered the sky as if the world was really going to roll over. That was why it was called Sky Flipping Seal. It contained unimaginable power. Die! Venerable immortal Yuan Miao's eyes burst with light. She stepped on the refining, and her body burst out like a cannonball. She directly integrated green lotus sacred fire into her thunderbolt vortex and blasted towards Yishuan. Boom! The thunderbolt vortex and Yishuan's sky flipping seal collided directly. It was another shocking collision, and both sides were evenly matched. He retreated continuously. Initially, venerable immortal Yuan Miao was just an ordinary late-stage immortal level. Her strength was indeed insignificant compared to Yishuan. Yishuan had long been able to sweep away late-stage immortal level experts. However, with the help of green lotus sacred technique, venerable immortal Yuan Miao could soar to peak late-stage immortal level in one go. It was enough to compete with Yishuan. This green lotus sacred technique was really amazing. It was worthy of being Emperor Qin's lost technique. It had been improved. It was said that Emperor Qin relied on the green lotus sacred technique to fight people of a higher level in the past. It was almost like Yishuan now. However, Yishuan was the first to break away from the aftermath of the collision. Then, an amazing light burst out in an instant. At that moment, the sky-splitting sword appeared in Yishuan's hand. The divine sword's power soared into the sky. It was incomparably grand. It rushed into the sky and directly drew a huge ray of light that soared into the sky. He did not want to wait anymore and was determined to solve the problem. What? You actually have a divine weapon? Venerable immortal Yuan Miao did not expect that Yishuan would still hide his strength until now. She was even more furious. He was obviously looking down on her. If she did not use the green lotus sacred technique, she might not even be able to force Yishuan to use his trump card. At that moment, everyone watching the battle was also shocked. Yishuan had not used all his trump cards. However, venerable immortal Yuan Miao was completely different. She had used all her trump cards and even used the green lotus sacred fire. How many trump cards does he have that he hasn't used? That divine weapon is so powerful, but I seem to have seen it somewhere before. I remember now. That's the sky-splitting sword. It's the sword of the Hidden Valley's Lord of Flames. In that case, he's actually from the Hidden Valley. Many people suddenly shouted. It turned out that he was from the Hidden Valley. In particular, the Lord of Flames was extremely famous. Even in the Heaven Realm, they had heard of him. Some people had even seen the Lord of Flames battle in the early years. With the sky-splitting sword, he was almost invincible. However, the cultivation of the Lord of Flames was getting more and more profound. His status was also rising, so he rarely fought in person. Therefore, many people had even forgotten about his prestige. He's from the Hidden Valley? The old beggar said in surprise. The Hidden Valley was also a very huge king-level force. There were countless experts in the sect. Probably. I originally wanted to recommend him to join our martial sect. Who would have thought that it would be delayed because of various things? Now he has even joined the Hidden Valley. But in general, he is also a human. Our human race has another great expert, so we should be happy. Qin Lai nodded and said, That's hard to say. There are thousands of experts of the human race outside. Not many of them still have their clan in their heart. It's hard to say for this little friend, said the old beggar. What sword is this? Venerable immortal Yuan Miao was shocked. But while she was still in shock, Yishuan had already pressed down. Carrying supreme pressure, he directly slashed down and instantly suppressed her on the spot. King Tyrannical Descent. The coercion of Yishuan's long sword directly crushed down. It was irresistible. The green lotus sacred fire around senior immortal Yuan Miao's body was suppressed by Yishuan. The hidden armor on his body was completely shattered. Puff! Venerable immortal Yuan Miao spurted out a mouthful of blood. She was directly slashed by Yi Shiwen's sword, and her body was almost severed. Suddenly, in the void, a big hand suddenly grabbed out and took venerable immortal Yuan Miao away on the spot. The speed was so fast that even Yi Shiwen couldn't react. Chapter 2309. The speed of this big hand was so fast that even Yi Shiwen couldn't react in time. He could only watch the big hand rescue senior, immortal Yuan Miao. Yi Shiwen's face immediately turned ugly. A super expert had intervened in the battle between the two. With the current cultivation of the two, even an Eternal Realm expert couldn't take senior immortal Yuan Miao away so silently without Yi Shiwen having any reaction. Deputy Patriarch of Martial Sect. In Yi Shiwen's mind, only these 5 words appeared. The Deputy Patriarch of Martial Sect that only existed in legends. If it was really the Deputy Patriarch of Martial Sect, then it was indeed not someone he could deal with at present. He slowly landed in Martial Sect. Brother Yi, this matter. Qin Lai's face was also extremely ugly. However, in Martial Sect, his status was not high enough to be compared with such a top magnate. Forget it. Yi Shiwen's face was cold. He had no enmity with senior immortal Yuan Miao, but now that Gao Qingye had become his disciple, he would naturally accept any karma that arose. Everyone looked at Yi Shiwen differently. They originally thought that he was a mountain man who came out of nowhere, but just now they discovered that he was from Hidden Valley. Moreover, it was likely that he was a newcomer valued by the Flame Lord. This was completely different. The Flame Lord was now in charge of all the affairs of Hidden Valley. His status was not trivial. In addition, he was also a well-known powerhouse. Even if he did not want to give face, he still had to give face. No matter how many times your boss Wu wants to settle this matter, I will accept the matter of my disciple Gao Qingye. If there is anything, feel free to look for me, Yi Shiwen said lightly. Everyone in Martial Sect looked quite embarrassed. In the end, this matter was not something that their Martial Sect was in the right. It would be a family scandal if it was revealed. Martial Sect had such an evil creature, but they still had to seek justice for this evil creature. This matter was not good no matter how they looked at it. Qin Lai, I won't say much about this matter. I think you should also understand that I came this time, because I didn't come without a reason. I also have something to ask of you. Yi Shiwen said, Tell me. As long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. Qin Lai patted his chest and said. The matter just now had made him lose face. Naturally, he wanted to redeem it. Is there a secret room? Let's talk in detail. Yi Shiwen said, Yes, come with me. Qin Lai directly brought Yi Shiwen to the depths of the Martial Sect. After such a thing happened, he no longer had any interest in continuing the banquet. Qin Lai led Yi Shiwen into a secret room, and then said, You can speak. This is the place where I usually do closed-door training. No one will be able to hear you. It's like this, I need to go to the human world for something. I don't know if you have any way to help me? Yi Shiwen asked. Originally, he wanted to directly enter the human world, but later on, he discovered that the human world was very strange. It was not like other worlds. There was no entrance at all. It was simply a subordinate space of the Heaven Realm. Without going through the Heaven Realm, it was impossible to directly enter. Otherwise, there was no need for him to waste his breath. Qin Lai suddenly hesitated. Although I don't know what you want to do in the human world, I can tell you that it's impossible. Why? Yi Shiwen asked. Could it be that the son of senior immortal Yuan Miao is also a native of the human world? It was because he heard about the son of senior immortal Yuan Miao that he had a sudden inspiration. To be honest, this matter is related to the ancestor of our Qin family, Emperor Qin. Many years ago, because of the invasion of the demon race, after the ancestor achieved enlightenment, he sealed the human world with great power and became a subordinate space of the Heaven Realm, in order to protect the human race and the human world from being invaded by external evil. Unless all the human race in the Heaven Realm die in battle, no one can affect the development of the human world. In the words of the ancestor, we people cultivate martial arts and ascend to a better plane, not to let us be superior, but to protect these ordinary people. Qin Lai said, Yi Shiwen immediately felt respect. Emperor Qin was indeed a powerful person, with a big heart and great courage. But at the same time, he was also extremely disappointed in his heart. How many people in this world could unlock the seal and barrier left by Emperor Qin? No matter how arrogant he was, he didn't dare to say so. That is the starting place of our human race, and also the root of our human race. It is a matter of great importance, and there can be no mistakes. I'm not very clear about the specific internal reasons, but since the ancestors sealed the human world, the people in the human world can ascend to the heaven realm after cultivating to the transcendent realm, which is what they call the 10,000 life realm. However, it is extremely difficult for us to go back to the human world. In fact, the son of senior immortal Yuan Miao was sent to the lower realm after spending countless resources. We wanted to use the environment of the human world to hone him. Who would have thought that he would become such an evil creature later? Qin Lai said with a face of disappointment. The environment of the human world is far inferior to the heaven realm. Those who can stand out from it are all peerless talents without exception. Just like Gao Qingye. If he is nurtured well, it won't take long for him to improve rapidly. These people are at least in the demigod realm. If the opportunity is right, it is even possible for them to directly prove their Tao. Yi Shiwen understood that barren mountains and unruly rivers gave birth to unruly people. However, such an environment also cultivated people to have a stronger will. Moreover, they were able to cultivate to the transcendent realm in that kind of environment. Just like Huang Wuji. Although he was restricted by the environment of the true martial domain and couldn't break through further, in terms of talent, Yi Shiwen felt that he was not inferior to those peerless talents. However, he suddenly reacted and said, "You said that it is extremely difficult, not impossible, right?" "Yes, it is not impossible. In fact, we often send talented seedlings to the lower realm. Firstly, it is to train them. Secondly, it is also to control the information of the lower realm to prevent any changes that we don't know about," said Qin Lai. Qin Lai said, "But it's impossible for you. What's your current cultivation? You've already proven your Tao. With the laws and environment of the human world, once you enter, wouldn't the world be in chaos? If your cultivation goes one step further, the laws you cultivate will be able to shatter the human world. The restriction left behind by the ancestor is to prevent experts like you from entering." After listening, Yi Shiwen was disappointed. He didn't expect that the result would be like this when he finally found hope. He still didn't have the strength to break the seal left by the Qin Emperor. "No, I must not give up on this matter." Yi Shiwen's eyes were burning with fighting spirit again. This matter was not only related to his unfulfilled wish, but more importantly, it was related to his Tao validation. If he couldn't settle the knot in his heart, then his Tao validation would be like a flower in the mirror and the moon in the water. But if you just plan to go down to the mortal world to do something, it is not impossible, said Qin Lai. Your real body definitely can't enter. Otherwise, the order of time and space will be chaotic. But this doesn't mean that there is no other way. Your divine thoughts can enter it. Yi Shiwen suddenly came to a realization. His face showed a look of surprise and said, "That's right, it can be done like this." For him, he just had an unfulfilled wish. He didn't have to go to the spirit incarnation with his real body. It was also a projection of his own will. Why not? Thinking of this, he was suddenly enlightened. However, you have to know that every time we open a crack in the seal, we need to pay a huge price. Even if other immortal inheritances ask us to open it, we also need to spend a lot of resources, said Qin Lai looking at Yi Shiwen. No problem, what's the price? Yi Shiwen was suddenly full of pride. Didn't they know that his nickname was the legendary Tycoon Yi? In the end, Yi Shiwen also paid a huge price. A total of 30 pseudo-divine tools. At that time, he didn't have time to use the pseudo-divine tools, but he had a hand over all of them. Although they were only pseudo-divine tools and couldn't be compared with the value of the divine tools, the difference between them and the divine tools was only the Tao patterns engraved by the gods. Even the refining materials of the pseudo-divine tools were better than some divine tools. When these materials were broken down, they were also priceless. In the future, it was not impossible for them to be promoted to divine tools. At the cost of 30 divine tools, Yi Shiwen finally had the opportunity to send a wisp of his divine thoughts into the human world. In the human world, ancient Fuzhou City, one of the 32 base cities in China, stood in the south of China. It was a popular base city since the Cataclysm. It had not been abolished until now, and even began to expand more and more. The problem of urbanization that was discussed thousands of years ago was no longer a problem now. A few years ago, because of the unknown object that fell from the sky, this city was under martial law. For their lives, it was nothing more than a passing cloud, and they had long forgotten about it. The social changes brought about by scientific and technological progress had already greatly changed this society. However, more resources were used to vigorously develop the military, and the military also consumed too many resources. Although the people's livelihood had improved, compared with thousands of years ago, there had not been such earth-shaking changes that people imagined. Robots that replaced human labor in science fiction did not appear. However, compared with the cataclysm that occurred in 2012 AD, the biggest change was that martial arts began to prevail among human beings. The cataclysm made people aware of the existence of tyrannical demonic beasts in this world. Ordinary soldiers with guns were nothing in front of these tyrannical demonic beasts. Even the nuclear bombs that humans relied on to rampage were nothing in front of some of the powerful demonic beasts' ancestors. So far, human beings had embarked on a road of equal emphasis on science and martial arts. It had been more than 1,000 years since then. In the lively campus, a handsome boy of 18 or 19 years old was holding a history book and reading silently. Chapter 23:10. It had been over 1,000 years since he had left Earth. No matter how lucky he was, he knew that he would never have the chance to see his parents and relatives again. When he first heard the news, he immediately fainted. The feelings that he had suppressed in his heart suddenly burst out like a mountain torrent. He was muddle-headed for a year before he finally pulled himself together. At least he did not forget the reason why he came here. He was just a body formed by the condensation of the original body's spirit. Naturally, it was impossible for him to have the strength of the original body. He could only practice from the beginning. Fortunately, when he first condensed his body, he condensed it in the most perfect state. In this way, he was a great genius, and any martial arts were at his fingertips. In addition, he had already practiced it once, so he was very familiar with it. In just a few years, he had already practiced to the Xiantian great perfection. This was without him deliberately practicing, and without any fortuitous encounters. He was almost relying on his own talent to practice. At this time, he really felt what a real genius was like. Compared to his original hard practice, it was not at the same level at all. But in terms of speed, it was faster than the original body's practice. He could only sigh with emotion. People were indeed born unequal. With the experience and martial arts realm of the original body as a foundation, as long as he was willing, he could break into the truth realm in just a breath's time. But for his current identity, the Xiantian great perfection realm was enough to deal with most of the troubles. Yes, he had now re-entered the school and became a senior high school student. Back then, it was just a fake identity to deceive people, but now it had become the mainstream of his life these few years. His face was too young, and he looked like a teenager, which was the best way to disguise himself as a student. Over the past few years, he had become somewhat famous in this number 8 high school. Everyone knew that Yi Shiwen was in the 3rd year of high school. He spent his free time in the library, and he specialized in reading history books. Only history books. There were people who liked to spend time in the library, but there was no such weirdo who only read history books and only read history books. However, although this weirdo only studied history and focused on history, his results were still considered top-notch. At the very least, his results in social sciences were top-notch. His results in martial sciences were also passable. Compared to more than 1,000 years ago, what students were learning now was undoubtedly much more complicated. It was no longer divided into liberal arts and science, but civil and martial arts. Liberal arts taught students some knowledge of science and technology, while martial arts taught them some knowledge of martial arts. Therefore, the students of the new era, no matter how much they were biased towards certain subjects, many years ago, they were still considered to be well-versed in both the pen and the sword. However, these things were not difficult for Yi Shiwen. Compared to proving the Tao, all of this was child's play. How can I break the knot in my heart? Yi Shiwen put down the book. Right now, there were only two things he did every day. One was to think about how to break the knot in his heart, and the other was to search for his family's descendants. He looked through those history books, hoping to find some clues. Ancient Fuzhou City was one of the 32 base cities that suffered relatively little damage and was not affected by too many demon beasts. His parents might have survived, and perhaps there were still descendants of his family left behind. Now, this had almost become his obsession. He was also very clear that this kind of obsession, the more persistent it was, the more difficult it was to resolve, but he had no other way. Fortunately, he had a lot of time to solve this problem, and time was not so urgent that he needed to solve it in a short period of time. Yi Shiwen, Yi Shiwen. A burst of disorderly footsteps and a hurried voice disrupted his thoughts. What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry? Yi Shiwen smiled and looked up. It was a 17 or 18 years old handsome boy dressed in a blue school uniform, walking quickly towards him. A goddamn bastard got cold feet, and now there is one less black in 5. The boy said hurriedly. Yi Shiwen smiled. This boy's name was Gao Tianxi, a good friend of his for the past few years. He was also a famous school hunk in number 8 high school, with an extraordinary family background and a handsome appearance. He was the target of many girls. Outstanding in liberal arts, outstanding in martial sciences, and at a young age he had already broken through to the Xiantian realm. In number 8 high school, there were only about 10 people at this age who had such cultivation. It looked like there were only about 10, but there were thousands of people in the 3rd year of number 8 high school, so one could imagine that he was definitely an influential figure. Therefore, many people were very curious. Such a perfect person in all aspects. How could such a person be good friends with that history geek? Thanks to Gao Tianxi, he had not been disturbed for the past few years. Can't you just pull another person in? Yi Shiwen said, shaking his head. He knew that Gao Tianxi was not talking about the game of League of Legends from 1,000 years ago, but Mecha World, a completely virtual mecha game. Since the cataclysm more than 1,000 years ago, mankind had embarked on the road of development of both science and martial arts, and in martial arts, there were unparalleled masters. In the field of science and technology, originally only existed in various science fiction novels, and with the help of mecha, even ordinary people could have the ability to fight against demon beasts. Although there were some extremely tyrannical existences who could fight against demon beasts with bare hands, but after all, only a few people had this kind of talent. After all, the majority of people who practice martial arts could only strengthen their bodies to protect themselves. Compared to the destructive power of demon beasts, it could be said that it was far from enough. The emergence of mecha, on the other hand, allowed ordinary people to have the ability to fight against demon beasts, and in order to cultivate more mecha pilots, the government developed this completely virtual mecha game, which could simulate live mecha combat. As soon as this game was released, it immediately set off a frenzy, especially among men. It set off an endless craze. In every man's heart, there was a hidden element of violence, but not everyone had the opportunity to release it. As soon as this game was released, it immediately became popular throughout the human world, and the main force was the students of various major universities. In the mecha world, a 5-man battle team was the basic equipment, and many people had their own fixed battle team. Some strong battle teams may even be valued by the military and be absorbed into the army. As soon as they entered, they would have a high military rank and enjoy good treatment. Even if they were not absorbed into the army, they could still form their own battle team and gallop in the real world, becoming a mercenary team. Speaking of which, Yi Shiwen and Gao Tianxi's lives should not have intersected. But unexpectedly, they did, because once Yi Shiwen accidentally revealed the strength of the virtual mecha, and for a time, shocked the heavens. And so, the intersection between them was born. Where did you come from? My battle team is a 3-star battle team, and those who can be selected are all strong people. Do you think you can casually find someone like me? Gao Tianxi immediately said, looking at Yi Shiwen with eyes full of expectation. In the mecha world, the strength of pilots and mecha battle teams was measured by the level of 1 star to 9 stars. 1 star to 3 stars. 1 star to 3 stars was the level of pure amateur. 4 stars to 6 stars was the level of the real professional ranks. This level was also the level of experts in the army, and 7 stars to 9 stars was the level of the real top experts. The existence of single-handedly shuttling back and forth in groups of demon beasts. Although Gao Tianxi's battle team was only at the level of 3 stars, but among the amateur battle teams, it was already considered very good. Yes, 4-star battle teams basically only existed in universities, and the professional ranks of 5 stars and 6 stars were mostly signed by official clubs to participate in all kinds of competitions. Their strength was very strong. Being able to have a 3-star battle team in high school was already considered first class. I'm telling you, this time, you must help me. I must win this match. My battle team has won 9 matches in a row. As long as we win one more match, we can rush into the ranks of 4-star battle teams. Gao Tianxi said. Yi Shiwen looked at Gao Tianxi. This kid's family background was very good. He grew up playing mecha. His level was already at the level of 5 stars. It was quite amazing. He could even become the main force of an ordinary professional club. However, his teammates were not good. His team members were only at the level of 3 stars, causing his battle team to be unable to become a 4-star battle team. One was not afraid of godlike opponents, but they were afraid of pig-like teammates. Although Gao Tianxi's teammates were not that bad, they were clearly holding back Gao Tianxi's performance. In the past, he had tried to become a 4-star battle team several times, but in the end, he had failed. As long as you help me win, I will introduce my sister to you. I guarantee that she will be beautiful. Gao Tianxi's expression at this time was slightly wretched. I want to say, are you sure that she is your biological sister? Yi Shiwen said with a face full of black lines. Of course, she is my biological sister. Do you think that I will casually recommend anyone else? Gao Tianxi looked at Yi Shiwen with a look of contempt. If you are a good brother, then don't refuse. Let's go. Then Gao Tianxi dragged Yi Shiwen to the school's virtual room without saying anything. To connect to the mecha world, different equipment was needed, and the degree of simulation of different equipment was naturally different. And in 8th high school, there were first-class mecha simulation cabins open to the students. They were all in the virtual room. Brothers, I have brought back a great master for you, Gao Tianxi said. In a huge virtual room, there were no less than 100 simulation cabins, and this was only one of the simulation rooms. As one of the key cities in the city, 8th high school was indeed rich and overbearing. Him? Boss, we did not study much, but you can't lie to us. Who doesn't know this history geek? Next to a few transparent simulation cabins, a tall and strong teenager suddenly complained. Next to him, there was a short and fat teenager, and a thin teenager. They also had a somewhat helpless look on their faces. Che, don't be surprised. Just wait for it to blind your corium gold dog eyes. Gao Tianxi curled his lips and said, but it could be seen that the relationship between them was very good. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Chapter 23:11. Yi Shiwen, let me introduce you to these guys. Gao Tianxi said, this guy is called Yang Kong. He is mainly responsible for suppressing fire. Gao Tianxi pointed to one of the taller players and said, Yang Kong. Yi Shiwen seemed to have thought of something. This guy is called Guang Baran. He is responsible for scouting and attracting aggro. His close combat ability is excellent. This was the skinny teenager with a somewhat despicable smile on his face. This is Chao Hong, main MT. This was the only remaining teenager with a relatively fat body. Now we are short of a sniper. I remember seeing your sniping skills. You should be able to do it. Gao Tianxi looked at Yi Shiwen. Although the others were obviously a bit suspicious, Gao Tianxi was the soul of this team. His prestige was too high, and others could not refute him. This match was too important. It was related to whether or not they could be promoted to a 4-star team. That was the line between amateurs and professionals. Gao Tianxi's strength had long been enough, but the rest of them were obviously much weaker. Therefore, they had not succeeded after several attempts. This time, however, was the closest their team had ever been to success. As long as they won one more match, they could become a 4-star team. For them, this was naturally very important. The difference between a 3-star team and a 4-star team was completely different. It was a completely different world. If not for this reason, they would not have objected to Gao Tianxi bringing Yi Shiwen in. Anyway, it was just for fun. The opponents they encountered were completely random 3-star teams. However, as the number of victories increased, the random 3-star teams became more powerful. If it was not because of Gao Tianxi's sudden burst of strength, perhaps they would have been defeated. This time, the original sniper couldn't come because he had something to do. They were already short of soldiers. With the addition of this historical weirdo, the future was bleak. However, the prestige that Gao Tianxi had accumulated over the years played a complete role at this time. But at this time, there was no other way, because the match would start in a few minutes. At this time, there was no way to change people even if they wanted to. Yi Shiwen, hurry up. I will add you to our team. Gao Tianxi did not care what the other three thought and said directly. This kind of competition could only be participated in by their own team. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate. He had already been dragged to this point, so he didn't think too much about it. He just needed to finish this game. He sat down in the transparent cockpit, and a holographic screen appeared in front of him. It was the login page. He entered his account password and immediately entered the mecha world. In front of him was a 15 or 16-meter tall mecha with a slender body and a 20-meter long sniper rifle. The mecha's dark green color made it look delicate and alluring. Yang Kong and the other two almost fainted when they saw Yi Shiwen's huge mecha. It was not because Yi Shiwen's mecha was too awesome. On the contrary, it was because this mecha was too much of a scam. This sniper-type mecha was called Cyan Bird Model 1. It belonged to the earliest model of this series. When it first came out, it was very popular. It was a sniper-type mecha with excellent performance. Hence, later on, the Cyan Bird series was created. At present, this series had already produced Cyan Bird 23. And this Cyan Bird Model 1 was already decades old. It also had a resounding name, New Mobile Mecha. It belonged to the 3 major models that were provided free of charge in the mecha world. Among the 3 basic models of the sniper system, it was the basic model of the sniper system. In the mecha world, when everyone first logged in, they would use these basic models that were the easiest to get used to. However, in the mecha world, every victory in a battle or instance dungeon would earn them gold coins. These gold coins could be used to exchange for different mecha. As a result, it had been a long time since they had seen the Cyan Bird Model 1. Even for amateur players, there were still 3 stars. Their opponents had long since changed their fouling rifles for cannons, who would still use this kind of deceptive basic model. Other than practicing with newbies or bullying newbies in instance dungeons, it was basically a pitfall. And looking at the number of times he logged in, it was written impressively. 2 times. Including this time, it was only 2 times. In other words, this was not only a newbie, but also a newbie, a very newbie. Because the mecha world was bound to each person's identity, each person could only have 1 account. It was impossible for a god to open a smurf account. In their minds, there was only 1 sentence. Are you *King kidding me? The corners of Gao Tianxi's mouth twitched uncontrollably. Even he had not expected that this would actually be his second time logging in. Could it be that he had really misjudged back then? But things had already come to this, and they had already been forced to do something beyond their abilities. What else could they do? Although he was a newbie, it was still 5 against 5. If there was 1 less, then it would really be 4 against 5. 4 against 5, then there would really be no chance of winning. In any case, he was still a human. Now that things had come to this, everyone had no other choice. It could almost be said that they had been sentenced to death. Still, if they did not fight to the last match, they really would not be satisfied. They were still fantasizing that perhaps the opponent's battle team would also be a team full of idiots. If that happened, they would still have a chance of winning. Under Gao Tianxi's urging, everyone entered their respective cockpits. Very soon, Yi Shiwen received several friend requests. It was Yang Kong and the others. Sure enough, compared to a newbie like Yi Shiwen who had just logged in for the second time, although these people were just amateurs, they were still much better. Basically, they had already exchanged for their 3rd or 4th mecha. Yongkang's mecha was a Blaze Type 4, which belonged to the Firepower Output type. Its entire body was fiery red. Although its speed was not fast, it was very vigorous and belonged to the category of mobile gunpowder stores. Guangbaran's mech was an azure blue mech. It did not look as wild and huge as the Blaze Type 4, but it was much better than the Cyan Bird Type 1. It belonged to the normal model called Assault. It was currently the 4th generation of this series of mecha. As for Chao Hong, who was known as the main MT, his mech was a Storm Type 3 heavy-duty defensive mech. It was completely black, and it held a huge shield in both hands. When necessary, this would be a meat shield and a temporary trench. Compared to these people, Gao Tianxi, who belonged to the category of tall, rich, and handsome, was undoubtedly much more powerful. His mech was blood red, and it looked very dazzling. It had considerable close and long-range combat capabilities. It was relatively balanced, and it was not cheap. It belonged to the category of tall, rich, and handsome, especially when compared to Yishiwen's Cyan Bird Type 1. Yishiwen waited for a few minutes, and then entered the battlefield of the challenge. He entered a simulated universe, and this time, the battlefield of the challenge between the two sides was in this simulated universe. This was also one of the most common battlefields. Many demon beasts could survive in outer space, so this place was often one of the battlefields. Several people entered the battlefield one after another, and Yi Shiwen was naturally sent to the rear because his strength seemed to be the weakest in everyone's eyes, and most importantly, he was a sniper, so naturally, he had to hide in the safest place. Yi Shiwen was not in a hurry, and began to slowly control the Cyan Bird Type 1. There were still many places that he had not familiarized himself with. After all, this was only his second time in the game, and the last time was already a year ago. At this time, their challenge had also attracted a lot of attention. After all, they were only one match away from advancing to the 4-star level. And if they won, then they would become the only team besides the school team to advance to the professional level. In the 8th high school, only the strong school team had the ability to advance to the professional level. The other teams were basically amateurs among amateurs. Tyrannical Tiger Battle Team now has 9 consecutive victories. I wonder what kind of opponents they will encounter. Someone asked with concern. Yes, such a domineering and cool team name was exactly the name of Gao Tianxi's battle team, and it was said that he had gotten the inspiration from a movie many years ago. But what's with that Cyan Bird Type 1? It's too domineering and cool. Are you King kidding me? Where did this Cyan Bird Type 1 come from? Many people's first reaction was to not believe it, because those who were still using the Cyan Bird Type 1 were basically rookies among rookies. And how could rookies participate in this kind of promotion match? Is there really a Cyan Bird Type 1? Everyone was a little dumbfounded because they really saw the Cyan Bird Type 1. And on the transparent cockpit of several people, there was a board that displayed everyone's mecha so that everyone could see it, and also for the convenience of teaching. This rookie is a bit too much. Is Gao Tianxi really blind? Or can't he find him at all? Someone said suspiciously. As one of the few tall, rich, and handsome people in the 8th high school, Gao Tianxi was naturally the focus of everyone's attention, and this was really a battle of the spotlight. This time, Gao Tianxi really has been hunting geese for years, and now he's going to be pecked in the eye by the geese. Letting such a rookie Cyan Bird Type 1 go up is really crazy. Does he really think that with his 5-star strength, he can sweep the world? Someone said sarcastically. In the school, there were people who liked Gao Tianxi, and naturally there were people who hated him. But who is the pilot of this Cyan Bird Type 1? Let me see, damn. It's actually that history geek. No wonder. It's said that besides reading history books, he only reads history books. It's normal that he doesn't know how to play. I can understand Gao Tianxi's impulse to win, but after choosing such a person, will he still be able to win in the future? Originally, some of Gao Tianxi's supporters at this time, when they saw that the guy in the Cyan Bird Type 1 was actually that famous history geek, they were completely disappointed. Originally, they hoped that he might be able to use the Cyan Bird Type 1 because of his tyrannical strength, but at this time, their hopes were completely shattered. Looking at that geek's appearance, they knew that it was simply impossible. Chapter 23:12. It was naturally impossible for a god to have a smurf account, but a god could use the mecha left behind from the past. Not everyone would sell the old mecha after obtaining a new mecha, but would keep it instead. However, it was impossible for the history geek to be such a god. Of course, it was impossible. Looking at his ID, it was completely obscured. No one had ever heard of a god using such an ID. Oh, what do we do? CC, we are still too late. At that moment, two girls appeared at the entrance of the simulation room. They were two young and beautiful girls. One of them looked rather tall, about 1.7 meters tall. She was dressed rather casually and had a pretty face. At that moment, there was a look of regret on her face that could not be concealed. And beside her was a girl that only reached her shoulder. She did not look tall, but her skin was as white as snow. Her face was delicate, and she looked like a child. She looked much younger than her actual age. However, what was equally outstanding about her delicate face was the well-developed curves of her chest. Wrapped in her school uniform, they trembled slightly as though they would burst out of her clothes at any moment. She had a slender figure and looked filled with youth. Zhong Jinyan looked regretfully at the pretty girl that only reached her shoulder. It was not easy for her to convince her best friend, the famous school belle of 8th High School, Don Li, to help Gao Tianxi, who knew that it was already too late by the time they arrived. Since it has begun, I'll be heading back. Dawn turned around to leave. She had no intention of staying. She had planned on helping Gao Tianxi because she could not stand her best friend's persistent pestering. But since she could not make it in time, it did not matter. Cece, it has already begun. Let's go take a look. We'll head back after we're done. Zhong Jinyan pulled Dawn back. As she swayed, Dawn's chest trembled slightly. He pried Zhong Jinyan's fingers off his arm one by one and said, Yun Yun, you should know me. I'm not interested in such a low-level amateur competition. Cece, I won't allow you to talk about him. He's a 5-star player and a professional player. Even in an ordinary club, he's a main player. Zhong Jinyan said righteously. So what? Besides, even if his skills are pleasing to the eye, his teammates are too far behind. He's already lucky to be able to make it to the 9th match. It's not worth watching a match that relies on luck. Dawn did not succumb to Zhong Jinyan's dignified expression. She only rolled her eyes at Zhong Jinyan. She knew very well that her roommate and best friend was Gao Tianxi's fervent and loyal fan. Gao Tianxi was handsome and had excellent grades in both literature and martial arts. Most importantly, he had an excellent family background. Coupled with his cheerful personality, many girls were attracted to him. Even her best friend, who was also a goddess in the hearts of many boys, had fallen in love a long time ago. However, she also had the right to be proud. She, who was in the same year as Gao Tianxi, was already the vice president of the school's mecha society. Moreover, she had the combat power of a 6-star, which made her one of the best among the professional ranks. Whose is this Greenbird Type 1? It's actually that historical geek. Many people's discussions sounded in their ears. This puzzled the two of them. Gao Tianxi, who had always been the center of attention, was not the center of attention this time. Greenbird Type 1? There was actually someone who was using the Greenbird Type 1 to compete. Such a person was either a rookie or an absolute expert. Dawn, who was planning on leaving, suddenly became interested. She squinted her adorable smiling eyes and revealed a lowly face that could make countless otakus drool. She said, if that's the case, I'll go take a look. The two of them squeezed in. When the boys saw that the two goddesses had arrived, they made way for them. However, there were a few who felt envious. It was good to be handsome. Even when playing mecha, there were goddesses who came to watch. From their point of view, the two goddesses were naturally here to watch the school hunk, Gao Tianxi. At the very least, Zhong Jinyan was like that. Goddess Zhong had long fallen for Gao Tianxi's genes. This was no longer a secret. However, what was enough to comfort many boys was that goddess Zhong only had unrequited love. Gao Tianxi had never expressed his acceptance of her. However, this also made many people feel indignant while consoling themselves. Why was it that they could not get close to her, yet Gao Tianxi had rejected her? So what if he was rich? So, what if he was handsome? Hence, A large number of Zhong Jinyun's fans turned from passersby to anti-fans. However, Dawn was naturally not that bored. From her point of view, only Gao Tianxi's standard in the Decepticon battle team was passable. The others did not even enter her sights. Her eyes were only fixated on Yi Shiwen. This rookie who dared to use an antique mecha like the Green Bird Type 1 in the advancement match might also be an expert. However, they were quickly disappointed. After watching for a while, Yi Shiwen's performance was rather clumsy. It was obvious that he was unfamiliar with many aspects. He was not just a rookie, but a rookie who had just started playing. Even a layman could tell that Yi Shiwen was only considered a layman. His hand speed was not fast, and the Green Bird Type 1 appeared crooked under his control. Yi Shiwen naturally did not know how many people were watching him. He was only focused on familiarizing himself with his controls. Even the beginning of the match did not attract his attention. Originally, Gao Tianxi and the others had hoped that Yi Shiwen could give them some support. After all, it was better than nothing to have a super long-range sniper. Who would have thought that Yi Shiwen would only learn some basic movements? He had no intention of helping them. Even Gao Tianxi had given up. Maybe he had made a mistake back then. From the looks of it, it was fate that the Decepticon Tiger battle team was unable to become a professional battle team. As for Yi Shiwen, he was the one who had forcefully pulled him in, so it was not appropriate to blame Yi Shiwen. However, the others were not as good-tempered. Damn, rookie, are you retarded? Move! Even if you don't want to support us, why don't you run? Do you want to stand there and be a target? If you can't, then get lost. In the face of these curses, Yi Shiwen was not the slightest bit moved. He just began to familiarize himself step by step. The last time he logged in, he was just playing around. On the spot, he had just tested the range of the sniper rifle. It was at that time that Gao Tianxi had stimulated him. What's up with that guy on the other side? Green Bird Type 1. F***CK. That scared me to death. I thought it was some god, but it turned out to be a rookie. Look at his movements. It's a little stiff. It's obvious that he's a rookie. Your head is mine. In the distant universe, a figure appeared behind a meteorite. He was holding a huge sniper rifle in his hand. His eyes were looking at the distant Green Bird Type 1. In the cockpit, a thin young man sneered. When the Green Bird Type 1 had first appeared, it had almost scared the hell out of the people on their side. They knew the ins and outs of the 8th high school, so they did not think that Yi Shiwen was a god. What they didn't know was that, in their opinion, Gao Tianxi couldn't have found a rookie to participate in such an important promotion competition. Like the Decepticon Tiger battle team, they had also won 9 matches in a row. However, unlike the Decepticon Tiger battle team, they had won 9 matches in a row. Because their team was a quasi-professional battle team, they had 3 5-star experts and the remaining 2 were 4-star experts. This was a completely quasi-professional battle team. Because they were newly formed, they had to participate in this promotion competition. It could only be said that the luck of the Decepticon Tiger battle team was really bad. Sure enough, as soon as they made their move, they quickly suppressed the members of the Decepticon Tiger battle team. They were suppressed to the point where they could not even lift their heads. Coupled with Yi Shiwen's inaction, it was almost 4 against 5, and they instantly fell into a disadvantageous position. Therefore, they were very cautious in the beginning. Even when the battle was the most intense, they did not attack Yi Shiwen. However, now they had figured out that this guy was simply a rookie. Although they did not know why the opponent would find such a rookie to participate in this competition, it had nothing to do with them. Don't worry about these details. The long sniper rifle was instantly raised and locked on the distant Green Bird Type 1. At the same time, in Yi Shiwen's cockpit, a shrill alarm instantly flashed, proving that they had been locked on. Not good, this rookie has been locked on, Zhong Jinyun quickly said with an anxious look on her face. Why would this rookie participate in such an important competition? She was about to die from anxiety. For her, there was probably no more important time than this. In her opinion, Yi Shiwen's appearance was simply a mistake. He was not good enough to accomplish anything, but more than enough to spoil things. If because of such a stupid and overconfident rookie, Gao Tianxi lost the competition, she would certainly not let Yi Shiwen go. Schwa! From afar, A laser beam crossed the entire battlefield and went straight towards Yi Shiwen. Not good, that rookie! Yang Kong and the others could not help but roar. Although they were very unhappy with Yi Shiwen's behavior, but they still understood that one more person was one more portion of strength. The opponent's savage laughter appeared on the public channel. I want this head! At this time, only about 3 minutes had passed since the start of the competition. Only 3 minutes had passed, and one of them had already been taken care of. One could imagine that the following battles would be even more difficult to fight. The anticipated explosion did not come. This shot actually missed and hit the side of the blue bird type 1. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? The people on the other side must be blind. They couldn't even hit a moving target. Chapter 23:13. Someone blurted out this sentence, which was also what everyone was thinking. It seemed that Yi Shiwen's actions were indeed a bit of a scam. In their eyes, Yi Shiwen's movements were simply slow and clumsy. No matter how weak a rookie was, he would still be like this. Who would have thought that he would actually miss a shot? This was simply a scam. The sniper on the other side seemed to be quite skilled. Just a few shots were enough to make the tyrannical Sky Tiger team flustered. Even Gao Tianxi was no exception. There were at least 3 opponents who were at the same level as him. The other 2 were enough to suppress a few of his team members. Even Zhong Jinyun, who had the most confidence in him, could tell that he was done for this time. This was because he had encountered such an abnormal team. They were almost at the professional level, and the only one in the tyrannical Sky Tiger team who could compare to them was Gao Tianxi. The 2 sides were not even on the same level. How could they play? It was a completely different matter. This was simply bullying. This time, from the crowd's point of view, there was no longer any suspense. Although Yi Shiwen was not good enough, it was not his fault. If it was the original sniper, he might not have fared any better. The difference in level between the 2 sides was too great. But what happened just now? Did he miss? Even a professional level player could miss. It was a scam. The scene of the rookie being shot in the head did not happen as everyone had imagined. How was this possible? This was the only word that popped up in everyone's mind. To them, this was simply too inconceivable. It was a miracle. No, it's not luck. At the critical moment, the rookie dodged it. A glint flashed in Dawn's beautiful, smiling eyes. She had finally found something that piqued her interest in the competition that had left her so bored that she was about to fall asleep. Not only had her mecha skills reached 6 stars, but her martial arts skills were also not bad. She had long broken into the innate realm, and her dynamic vision had reached an extremely high level. Just now, she clearly saw that the rookie had dodged the attack by a hair's breadth. It should be known that mecha were not humans. No matter how fast their reflexes were, it would still be very difficult for them to evade the attacks of these beam weapons. Only a certain degree of prediction would be possible. They would have to predict the trajectory of the opponent's attacks in advance to be able to dodge in advance. Although there were some people who could reach this level by relying on their super fast hand speed, she didn't think that this rookie could have such a terrifying hand speed. Of course, it could also be a coincidence, but she wasn't a person who believed in so-called coincidences. Although this rookie's movements were rusty, his prediction made her eyes light up. He didn't have any extraordinary hand speed, but he was able to dodge the opponent's professional sniper with his extraordinary prediction. His prediction talent was quite impressive. The sniper on the other side was dumbfounded. How is this possible? How could I fail? A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. Damn rookie, why don't you just stand there and take a beating? Why are you moving? I'll finish you off with one shot. Under his control, the mecha raised its spear once again and instantly locked onto Yi Shiwen. Then it fired a shot. Xiao! Another gigantic beam of light tore through the entire battlefield and headed straight for Yi Shiwen. However, this time, it did not hit Yi Shiwen again. It shot past him and hit Guichu again. Holy sh*T. He's really blind. Someone could not help but curse. The first time was a miss, and the second time was a miss. If he wasn't blind, what was it? Holy sh*T. This rookie's luck is way too good. That's right. 2 shots failed to finish him off. It's practically a miracle. A beautiful smile flashed across Dawn's lips. She was even more certain that she had not guessed wrongly. It was indeed a prediction and not so-called luck. Holy sh*t, this historical geek's luck is way too good. Yang Kong and company could not help but feel envious and jealous. They were locked in a stalemate on the battlefield, but Yi Shiwen, who was at the back, had it easy. However, the only thing that could be rejoiced was that the opponent's sniper was being held back by Yi Shiwen. Hence, he could not disturb them, so there was no need to worry about a sudden shot. Damn it, what's going on? The opponent's sniper was going crazy. Die. Phew. 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 The long-range sniper's beam rifle constantly shot at Yi Shiwen, but every shot missed. It flew past Yi Shiwen, as though the cyan bird had some equipment that distorted light. However, the opponent's long-range sniper had completely exposed his position. Gao Tianxi immediately rushed forward to finish him off, but he was stopped by the remaining experts. Even though the opponent's sniper had exposed his position, he still could not do anything to them. The difference in strength was just too great. However, at that moment, everyone could tell that the opponent's sniper's repeated failures were not as simple as a miss. Missing once was a miss, but missing 10 times was no longer a miss. The opponent's sniper was by no means a weakling, and was definitely at the professional stage as well. Yet he could not do anything to an antique mech like the Cyan Bird Type 1. It definitely could not be described as good luck. It could only be said that this rookie definitely had some sort of ability that others did not know about. Foresight, this was foresight. It seemed that the Cyan Bird Eye's movements were not very agile. It was obvious that its hand speed was average. So, to be able to dodge repeatedly, it must be foresight that had played a role. The so-called foresight was also an amazing sixth sense. Generally, only veterans who had experienced life and death situations and countless bloody battles could have this kind of ability. However, this kind of thing like a sixth sense could not be very accurate every time. If this continued, sooner or later, there would be a time when he would miss, and when that time came, he would be shot in the head. The Cyan Bird Eye itself was not the type of mech that had thick skin and thick flesh. Moreover, it was an antique mech from decades ago. Facing the opponent's professional mech, it was almost a matter of one shot. However, for Gao Tianxi and the others, this time, they finally confirmed that at least this rookie was not completely useless. He was still able to stall the opponent's sniper, preventing the opponent's sniper from pulling out his hand. This was also considered a great skill. However, the situation of the battle still took a turn for the worse. Even without the opponent's sniper sniping, the gap between the two sides was still too big. The first to be killed was Guang Baran. The opponent seized an opening and beheaded him on the spot. At this time, it had only been 5 minutes since the start of the match. With Guang Baran seized an opening and killed, the entire fragile balance was quickly broken. Yang Kong was directly killed by the opponent's beam saber, and the remaining Chao Hong was also killed by the indiscriminate bombardment. Although his mech had thick skin and thick flesh, it could not withstand the siege of several people. Now, the Tyrannical Tiger team only had Gao Tianxi and Yi Shiwen left. Under the attacks of several masters, Gao Tianxi struggled to hold on, while Yi Shiwen was still relying on his amazing foresight to constantly dodge. However, in the eyes of everyone, failure was only a matter of time. Although some people did not like Gao Tianxi, at this time, Gao Tianxi was also representing the glory of 8th High School. If they could succeed, the Tyrannical Tiger team might become the only team after the school team to be promoted to the professional level. Although they might fall in the future, for them, the honor they had now was enough. However, it was clear that this had become an unreachable dream. F***CK. Yang Kong gloomily kicked the transparent cockpit next to him. This time, he really couldn't say anything. If you want to blame Yi Shiwen, at least he, a rookie, also stalled the opponent's sniper. Exchanging 1 for 1 was already considered a big profit, but the real problem was that the difference in their strength was too far. This was not the fault of the battle. This kind of strength gap made them depressed. Obviously, there was not much difference between the mecha, but the strength of the pilot was too far apart. Obviously, his reaction speed could not keep up. If he wanted to enter the professional level, he would at least have to be in the Sciention realm. Otherwise, his body's reaction speed would not be so fast, and he would not be able to enter the professional level. A big reason why they were stuck in the 3-star level was because they only had the cultivation of the peak Hodion realm. Even so, in the 8th high school, they were already considered outstanding. Otherwise, Gao Tianxi would not have found them. Chao Hong glanced at Yi Shiwen, who was still in the transparent cockpit, and could not help but smile wryly. He thought that the rookie was unreliable, but in the end, they were defeated first. And Yi Shiwen, who was in the transparent cockpit, remained calm. It was as if nothing could move him. Only one person was constantly paying attention to his actions. The others were watching Gao Tianxi's battle that was even more intense. That was Dawn Li. She clearly saw that Yi Shiwen's actions were gradually becoming more proficient. Furthermore, he was familiarizing himself with the cyan bird eye at an alarming speed. It had to be known that the battle had only begun a few minutes ago, but he was already able to control the cyan bird eye in numbers. He was truly a genius. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, she would definitely not have believed it. This was an astonishing ability to predict and learn. She concluded that this unassuming historical geek had a unique advantage in mecha piloting. Experience could be accumulated, but if one's hand speed was not fast enough, they could be trained. However, talent was innate. Some people were born geniuses, while others were born mediocre. There was no other way. She was wondering if she could recruit him into the Mecha Society. Although it was a little late, as he was already in his 3rd year of high school, he would still be able to replenish her combat strength. As for rejection, she did not even think about it. There were many people in the school who wanted to join the Mecha Society, but did not have the means. And at this moment, Yi Shiwen had finally completed familiarizing himself with the cyan bird eye. A smile flashed across his lips as he shouted, "Sniper scope!" On a mechanical arm behind his cockpit, the sniper scope appeared in front of his eyes. Instantly, everything in front of him became clear. The sniper who was constantly sniping him had been found and locked onto. The cyan bird eye held a sniper rifle for the first time. His grip was accurate. Phew! The beam traversed the battlefield. Boom! A loud explosion sounded. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 23:14. The sniper rifle blew up the cockpit of the opposing sniper. The entire cockpit was unable to withstand a single shot, and it exploded on the spot. This was a change that no one had expected, and they were all shocked by this sudden turn of events. Yi Shiwen did not make a move, but the moment he did, he blew up the cockpit. F***K. What happened to you? How did you get your head blown up by the rookie on the other side? The opposing team leader was immediately flustered. They were about to take down Gao Tianxi, but who knew that they themselves would be in trouble? If the sniper on their side was killed in seconds, then as long as the distance was far enough, there would be room for the sniper to display his skills. This was also the biggest reason why they had to catch Yi Shiwen and not let him go. They had to kill him first. The presence of a sniper could form a powerful suppression on the entire situation. Now their sniper was the first to be suppressed. It was intolerable. Soon, the opposing team split off one to head towards Yi Shiwen. It was a scouting-type mech. Its movements were extremely fast. It dodged in an irregular manner to prevent Yi Shiwen from sniping it. Clearly, it was a very experienced pilot. At this moment, the green bird model eye raised its gun and aimed at Yi Shiwen in a steady manner. The opponent is very experienced. From his footwork, it's obvious that he is not a simple person. This is a professional level. If it were me, I would not be able to execute such footwork. He's ridiculously powerful. This is the history geek's luck. It should be the end. Among the students, no one thought highly of Yi Shiwen. Only Dawn was an exception. She stared intently at Yi Shiwen's hand movements in the transparent cockpit with her beautiful eyes. Phew! Another astounding beam swept out. The scouting-type mech that was dodging with a strange footwork was instantly hit in the cockpit, causing it to explode in midair. It was another headshot. Everyone was instantly in an uproar. It was completely different from what they had imagined. They originally believed that Yi Shiwen was lucky to hit the opposing sniper, but from the looks of it, that was not the case. However, how did he do it? Many people clearly noticed that his hand speed was not fast. It did not look like he had made a few taps, but he was able to instantly kill the opposing scouting-type mech. It was too exaggerated. Prediction. This is definitely prediction. Dawn's eyes suddenly lit up. She believed that she could not have seen wrongly and that her judgment was absolutely correct. Yi Shiwen's speed wasn't fast. In other words, it was impossible for him to adjust his aim in a split second when the opponent was adjusting his body technique. So, he could only use his powerful prediction ability to predict where the opponent would appear and then finish him off with one shot. This required astonishing confidence in one's own prediction and innate intuition. This guy was not simple. At this moment, she was even more certain that this history geek, who had been called by others for several years, was not the nerd she had imagined. On the contrary, he was quite skilled. There's an expert on the other side. F***CK, we've been tricked. At this time, the remaining 3 people on the opposite side still didn't understand that Yi Shiwen was probably a hidden expert. Everything he had done before was simply to attract their attention. Now that it was 3 against 2, they no longer had the advantage they had before. Everyone be careful. Do not let them catch you. Before the opponent's suppressive mech could finish his sentence, it had already been blasted apart by Yi Shiwen's shot. At this moment, no one believed that Yi Shiwen was just lucky. Just with his superb sniping skills, even if his other operations were not up to standard, it was enough for him to be ranked at the professional level. And in number 8 high school, those that could be ranked at the professional level were few and far between. I knew you could do it. Gao Tianci suddenly became excited. This was a narrow escape from the jaws of death. He had already given up, but Yi Shiwen had suddenly exploded and destroyed 3 mechas in a short period of time. He had nothing to say about Yi Shiwen's domineering power. He knew it. How could he have seen wrongly? He still remembered the amazement of that shot back then. Yi Shiwen's complexion was calm. He didn't show the slightest bit of emotion on his face. He operated his mecha to dodge the incoming missiles. The other side finally realized that Yi Shiwen's threat was far greater than Gao Tianci's. Therefore, they went completely crazy. They wanted to deal with Yi Shiwen like crazy. However, Yi Shiwen was still not in a hurry. He directly raised his hand and fired a shot. The opponent's main MT was eliminated on the spot, and the remaining one couldn't escape from Yi Shiwen sniping. 1 shot, 1 kill. Yi Shiwen showed off in front of these amateur students. Was a true sharpshooter. He was really tyrannical. Many people were dumbfounded. They could only stare at him with their eyes wide open. Even if he was not good at other things, just by relying on his sniping skills, it was enough to dominate the world. The way everyone looked at Yi Shiwen suddenly changed. Everyone here was a mecha enthusiast. In fact, it should be said that there weren't many people who weren't interested in operating a mecha. It was nothing more than a disparity in level. For these ordinary students, they were at most at the amateur level. The gap between them and the professional level was not just a little bit. Here, tyrannical strength was the ultimate guarantee. Yi Shiwen's performance left them completely speechless. They were the most genuine people. Powerful people would naturally gain their admiration. They suddenly discovered that this seemingly inconspicuous historical freak had such terrifying strength in sniping. 1 shot, 1 kill. Moreover, the opponent was not an amateur, but a proper professional level of strength. This made his sniping skills seem to have reached the acme of perfection. Although some people showed disdain, they couldn't say anything about Yi Shiwen's sniping skills. In other words, he was not good at other things. If he encountered a real master, he would be finished. However, most people expressed their disdain. They had also piloted mecha. Naturally, they were very clear about how terrifying a powerful sniper could be. Perhaps there were some shortcomings, but it was undeniable that his sniping skills were very powerful. If the opponent wanted to attack him, they would have to get close to him first, and they would be finished before they could even get close to him. It was impossible for them to pose any threat to Yi Shiwen. It seemed that Yi Shiwen's other shortcomings were not shortcomings at all. The flaws did not obscure the brilliance. At this time, the members of the tyrannical tiger battle team were completely crazy. This kind of survival was like riding a roller coaster. It was even more difficult to give up than the simple victory itself. They looked at Yi Shiwen with a somewhat complicated expression. The person they were most pessimistic about had now truly saved their battle team. He had also allowed their battle team to truly enter the professional level. This was also the first battle team outside of their school team to enter the professional level. Although the difference between a 3-star team and a 4-star team was only a little, the difference in treatment was like heaven and earth. There were quite a few 3-star battle teams in number 8 high school and in Mecha World. Who knew how many of them there were? But 4-star battle teams were completely different. In number 8 high school, only the school Mecha Society had 4-star battle teams. Moreover, they could earn money through sponsors and endorsements. This was completely different from the playful amateur level teams. Moreover, the team they won was a true professional level battle team. Although they were defeated, they knew very well that their opponent was a true professional level battle team. It was not like they only had Gao Tianxi as a professional level battle team. Instead, all of their members were professional level battle team members. As soon as the battle started, they were completely trapped in a bitter battle. If it was not for Yi Shiwen turning the tide of the battle, they might have been defeated by the opponent without a single death. If that happened, it would be too embarrassing. They also could not afford to lose so much face. However, if they wanted to stand firm in the world of 4-star professional battle teams, it would not be so easy. They were already the cream of the crop amongst the amateur teams. However, amongst the professional teams, they were at the bottom. This was a brand new battle team. At this time, they no longer had the slightest resistance towards Yi Shiwen joining them. On the contrary, they hoped that Yi Shiwen would join them. Yi Shiwen, thank you so much for this time. If it were not for you, I'm afraid that not only would we have been completely annihilated, but we would also have been defeated by the opponent 5-0. That would have been too embarrassing. Gao Tianxi laughed as he climbed out of the transparent cockpit. Then, he ran to the side of Yi Shiwen, who had just climbed out. I told you that you could do it. How about this? Yi Shiwen joined our tyrannical Sky Tiger battle team. Although Gao Tianxi usually looked carefree, he was not a playboy who did not know anything. On the contrary, he was a very shrewd person. He could also tell that Yi Shiwen's strength was very important to them. If the tyrannical Sky Tiger wanted to stand firm among the professional battle teams, he alone was not enough. And even if the tyrannical Sky Tiger became a professional battle team, they could not let their guard down because they could be eliminated at any time. In the Mecha World, he was not the kind of deformed system that could only go up and not down. And if they had Yi Shiwen's help, they could at least sweep the average professional battle team. It could be said that it would not be difficult at all. However, before Yi Shiwen said anything, Dawn had already walked out of the crowd. She walked past the crowd and came in front of them. Everyone was a little curious as to what this goddess would say to this famous historical geek. Dawn, what are you doing here? Gao Tianxi said with a frown. Dawn ignored Gao Tianxi and directly asked Yi Shiwen, "What's your name?" Chapter 23:15. What's your name? Although Dawn knew of Yi Shiwen's nickname and knew that there was such a person in the school, she did not know what Yi Shiwen's name was. Even many people present did not know what Yi Shiwen's name was. Most people only knew that he was the history geek. Yi Shiwen glanced at the girl in front of him. He did not hide anything and answered directly. To make a long story short, I would like to invite you to join our Mecha Society. Dawn looked at Yi Shiwen and said. She stared at Yi Shiwen with her beautiful eyes. Dawn, what's the meaning of this? Are you planning on poaching him? Gao Tianxi immediately jumped up. 8th High was huge, so it was naturally impossible for it to have so few experts. However, most people would join the Mecha Society after they had some accomplishments. The reason was very simple. It was because the Mecha Society's treatment and level were higher. It was fine if he could not compete with Yi Shiwen, but Yi Shiwen was someone he had found after great difficulty. Now, he was being poached by Dawn. He was immediately infuriated. He himself had no interest in joining the Mecha Society. If not, with his strength, he would be able to occupy an absolute position in the Mecha Society. Yi Shiwen, what's your opinion? Dawn looked at Yi Shiwen with a confident expression. This was because she knew very well what the mecha society meant to mecha experts like them. It was a higher-level world. Not interested. Yi Shiwen's words immediately caused her expression to sink. She never expected that he would reject her. He actually rejected her. Yi Shiwen, I see that you've just started piloting mechas. So, I'm afraid that you're not very clear about this. Our mecha society has an absolute professional-level battle squad and 3 quasi-professional-level battle squads. With your strength and skill, as long as you're willing to join our mecha society, I can guarantee you that you'll become the main sniper of our professional battle squad within 6 months. Dawn calmed her tumbling breaths before saying this. Her towering chest trembled slightly, as though it indicated that the owner in front of her was not calm. Yi Shiwen's prediction ability was something she had never seen before in her life. He did not have a high hand speed, but with his amazing prediction ability, he swept an entire battle team by himself. One must know that even she could not defeat an entire battle team as easily as Yi Shiwen. Even this battle team could not pose any threat to Yi Shiwen. What was strength? This was strength. What was talent? This was talent. With his talent, as long as he went through half a year of training, his strength would rise to another level without any pressure. When that time came, it would be a piece of cake for him to become their professional sniper. Sorry, I'm not interested. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said, I'm not very interested in this aspect. Gao Tianxi laughed out loud and said to Dawn, Did you see that? At critical moments, your brother is still the best. Short body, didn't you hear what Yi Shiwen said? He has no interest in your mecha society. He wants to become a member of our Decepticon. The word short body seemed to have completely touched Dawn's reverse scale. To her, height was definitely one of her weaknesses. Although many people felt that a petite body was more suitable for her with her childlike appearance and large breasts, she viewed it as a great humiliation. Gao Tianxi's words immediately infuriated her. Gao Tianxi, are you courting death? She looked coldly at Yi Shiwen and said. Gao Tianxi did not back down either. His mecha piloting might not be comparable to Dawn's, but in terms of ancient martial arts, he was in no way inferior. I'm sorry, Tianxi. I have no interest in your Decepticon. Mecha are just something I occasionally play with. It's easy to lose interest if you play too much. Yi Shiwen looked at the two of them and advised them. His martial path was a path of strengthening himself. As long as he was strong, there was nothing that could stop him. Compared to mecha piloting, only ancient martial arts could truly lead to the endless future of martial arts. These 4 words made everyone feel like vomiting blood. In this day and age, who would dare to say that piloting a mech was a form of entertainment? It should be known that the reason why humans with weak bodies were able to gain the strength to fight against demonic beasts in such a short period of time was because of these mechs. If they didn't have these mechs and had to rely on natural cultivation, who knew how much time it would take? Now, the entire society was in the craze of piloting mecha. There was even a game like Mecha World. However, Yi Shiwen actually said that piloting mecha was losing interest. This made many people feel like vomiting blood. And what really made them feel like vomiting blood was that although it was only Yi Shiwen's second time logging into the game, in terms of skills, he had completely crushed them. It was as though piloting mecha was a very simple matter like 1 + 1 = 2. Such an example was a huge blow to them. However, they could not say a word because their strength was not comparable to Yi Shiwen's. They were not strong, so naturally, they could not even straighten their backs when they spoke. Only by becoming strong and practicing martial arts is the only way to the endless martial arts. Yi Shiwen said calmly. In the eyes of everyone, Yi Shiwen was simply an old antique wearing glasses. Those martial arts teachers who taught ancient martial arts also taught them the same way. For a moment, they felt like they had traveled through time. However, they did not know why, but when the same words were said by those ancient martial arts teachers, they were not completely convinced. Compared to mecha, which could allow one to gain strength quickly, the time needed to practice ancient martial arts was way too long. Therefore, they did not really believe it. However, Yi Shiwen's words carried a natural sense of conviction, as if what he said was the truth. Gao Tianxi's face was twisted. Although his brother had rejected the invitation of the campus belle, he had also rejected him. This made his goal of recruiting Yi Shiwen go up in smoke. With his family's background, it wasn't difficult to invite a few professional-level experts. However, he didn't want to use this method. For him, it wasn't challenging at all. Not to mention, he had to rely on his family's background. If he did not rely on his family background, he did not know when he would be able to become a professional-level master. Moreover, he did not have the money to hire those famous professional-level masters. Therefore, he could only look to the side of his classmates. It was rare to find a master like Yi Shiwen, but he did not have any interest in his Decepticons. No, it should be said that he had no interest in piloting mecha. At this moment, he finally understood why someone could only log into the mecha world twice at this age. The last time he had witnessed the elegance of that one shot. This time, under his witness, they had helped their tyrannical Sky Tiger battle team defeat a true professional team. So that was what Yi Shiwen was thinking. What era was it? There was still someone who could hold on to such a heart. All right, there's no need for all of you to speak further. That's all for now, Yi Shiwen said lightly. Then, he pushed through the crowd and left. Gao Tianxi glared hatefully at Dawn. He believed that if not for her, with his friendship with Yi Shiwen, he would definitely be able to convince Yi Shiwen to become a member of the tyrannical Sky Tiger battle team. Dawn only rolled her eyes at him and gave him two big, dirty looks. Then, she turned around and left the simulation room. Although Yi Shiwen did not agree to her request, he did not agree to anyone else's invitation either. In short, it was not too bad. She looked at Yi Shiwen's back as he left and clenched her tiny fists. Then, she thought to herself, Yi Shiwen, just you wait. I will definitely get you to join our mecha society. If Yi Shiwen had directly agreed, it would have been fine, but his refusal had made her competitive spirit suddenly ignite. Yi Shiwen naturally did not know what was going on in the minds of the two behind him. At that moment, he did not have a high cultivation level. To him, the only thing he could rely on was his own strength. It was also the foundation of everything. This was a belief that he held, and no one could shake it. Especially after he vindicated his Tao, he was even more determined on this path. Oh, wrong. And at that moment, Dawn had returned to the Mecha Society's gathering spot. It was a gigantic simulation room. Just this simulation room alone had more than 100 gigantic simulation cockpits. It was obvious how rich the Mecha Society was. As the most popular sport in 8th high school, the Mecha Society naturally became the leader of the various societies. Furthermore, the Mecha Society would receive a lot of funding every year. Furthermore, those who could pilot mechas from a young age would usually start learning from a young age, so there was no need to mention their skills. Their family backgrounds were naturally extremely good, so there would often be rich parents coming to donate money. Hence, the facilities were all the best. Many of the club members made way for Dawn when they saw her return. Many of the male club members had their eyes on Dawn as well. How many people did not know of such a beautiful flower in the Mecha Society? She was even a living signboard. It was unknown how many people joined the Mecha Society because of Dawn. If not, many of them could have established their own organizations outside, but because of her, they had become a member of the Mecha Society. Cece, what's the matter? Why are you frowning? A youth's voice came from the front. It was a youth about 18 or 19 years old. He was dressed in an azure blue school uniform, and his appearance had been meticulously dressed up. Nothing. Dawn shook her head before saying solemnly, Wang Yuetian, we aren't that familiar with each other. Please call me Dawn Li. Thank you. Chapter 23:16. Dawn did not even need to raise her head to know who the person was. Wang Yuetian was her classmate and could be said to be an influential figure in 8th high school. Like Gao Tianxi, he was a school hunk in 8th high school. However, the person he liked was Dawn Li. He had specially joined the Mecha Society for her. In the eyes of many people, she and he were a golden couple, but only he knew what was going on. Furthermore, he hated this person very much. He just did not want to lose decorum with her. Ah, Cece, you're always so straightforward. Wang Yuetian's expression turned awkward. Many people were watching this scene, and some of them were snickering. This was because this was not the first time something like this had happened. Many people could almost guess how Dawn would answer. They did not find it strange that Dawn was not polite at all. Wang Yuetian's embarrassment only lasted for a moment before he restored his smile. At such a young age, he was already scheming quite a lot. These people could be said to be tall, rich, and handsome, but their living environments were much more complicated than most people. It could be said that they had survived from a young age in the midst of scheming, so their scheming was naturally not simple. Dawn could not be bothered with him and walked straight in. Wang Yuetian stared with widened eyes as he looked at Dawn's back. Then he cursed in his heart, "Darn bitch, there will be a day when you will grovel under my jeans. When that happens, you will be begging for death." However, he knew very well that although Dawn seldom used her background, she was definitely no ordinary person. He absolutely could not afford to offend her in such a manner. "Cece, what's the matter?" At that moment, another figure appeared in front of Dawn. It was a tall girl with snow-white skin and a voluptuous figure. Dawn could only reach her chest. Dawn looked up and saw a girl about 17 or 18 years old. She had a head of short hair and looked very spirited. She was also very beautiful. Although she was not as exquisite as Dawn, her short hair and fiery character gave her a different kind of charm. In the mouths of many busybodies, she and Dawn were known as the twin beauties of the Mecha society. In the world of Mecha, which was dominated by men, the two of them became the oddities in the eyes of the public. Furthermore, they were both more beautiful than the other, and she was none other than the president of the Mecha society, Xiao Yuqin. In fact, Xiao Yuqin was only a few days older than Dawn, but if the two of them were to walk on the streets, people would definitely think that Xiao Yuqin was the elder sister, while it was hard to tell if Dawn was an adult or not. "Sis Yuqin, I saw an expert today," Dawn said. "Expert? Which school are you from?" said Xiao Yuqin. She didn't think that there were any experts in the school that she didn't know. Most of them had entered the Mecha society, and even if they hadn't, she would still know experts of the professional ranks like Gao Tianxi. Sometimes, when there was a shortage of manpower, she would even ask them to come and help. "He's from our school," said Dawn. "What? From our school?" "Cece, you must be joking. Do you think I wouldn't know what kind of expert our school has?" Xiao Yuqin waved her hand and said with a laugh. Her laughter was forthright, but she still did not believe that Dawn had encountered an expert. Even if it was a high school junior that had just entered the school, she knew it very well. It was impossible for anyone to escape her intelligence network. "He's indeed from our school. Do you know that History Geek?" said Dawn as she looked at Xiao Yuqin. "History Geek. Of course I know him. The world is truly full of wonders. However, what has the expert you mentioned got to do with him?" said Xiao Yuqin. "The expert I'm talking about is him." Dawn nodded and said with certainty, "I made a mistake in the past. I never expected him to be a super expert. He might have only piloted a mecha a few times, but his judgment is very good. It's very impressive." "How is that possible? How good can he be if he hasn't piloted a few times?" Xiao Yuqin said, "Even if he's considered powerful among rookies, it's useless against us." Dawn shook her head and said, "No, he's not just ordinarily powerful. It's not just a matter of being a rookie. His sniping skills are superb. In the secondary schools in the Fuzhou city, I have yet to see anyone that can match him. Even that fellow known as the King of Snipers is no exception." "How is it possible?" Xiao Yuqin immediately exclaimed softly. It was unbelievable. If it were anyone else, she would never have believed it. However, Dawn was different. She was not a person who would spout nonsense. If she were to say such a thing, then the rookie was probably not your average level of strength. Although 8th high school strength was not the strongest among the experts in Fuzhou City, it was definitely a first-class standard. There were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and there were many experts. However, among the snipers, there was no existence that could compete with the legendary king of snipers. However, Dawn's youthful face had a look of determination. Clearly, she was not joking. His prediction is very accurate. This is very important for a sniper. As for his other techniques, I can't tell for now, but I think they are far inferior to his sniping skills. But most importantly, his learning ability is very strong. This is only his second time in Mecha World, and he did not even know how to operate a mecha before this. Yet in just a few minutes, he is already able to operate a mecha with ease. Although it's not at the acme of perfection, it's already very impressive, said Dawn. Then, she told Xiao Yuqin what she had seen. Xiao Yuqin gaped slightly after hearing it, as if she could not believe it. A new cell phone of the worst quality, the Green Bird Model 1, had actually single-handedly wiped out a professional player. With such strength, even if his other abilities were trash, he indeed had the qualifications and ability to stand in a professional team. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, she probably would not have believed it either. However, she believed in Dawn's judgment because Dawn was a 6-star expert in the Mecha Society. She was already very close to being a top expert. Her judgment could not be wrong. With such learning ability, with just a little training, our Mecha Society will have another great expert, Dawn said with certainty. Then what are we waiting for? Let's quickly get him to join us. Xiao Yuqin rushed off to find Yi Shiwen. Dawn pulled Xiao Yuqin back and said, "Wait, it's useless. I have already invited him, but he has no interest in it. So, I failed as well. It can't be. There is actually someone in the school who can resist our great beauty Li's charm and have the heart to reject you?" Xiao Yuqin stared with widened eyes. She looked completely incredulous. In fact, that was indeed the case. She was also considered a great beauty, but she always did things in a rush. She was very capable and looked like a strong woman. Hence, many people would keep a respectful distance from her, not daring to approach her. However, Dawn was different. She looked like a weak and petite chick that could be carried away in one's pocket at any time. Hence, although her looks were not much different, her popularity was worlds apart from Dawn's. Dawn looked helplessly at Xiao Yuqin. She knew that she had been teased again. "Sis Yuqin." Dawn could not help but grumble coquettishly. All right. That history geek is said to be a bookworm. From the looks of it, that is indeed the case. Even with a beauty in front of him, he is not tempted at all. What a bookworm, Xiao Yuqin said with a grin. The derisive look on her face did not diminish at all. It was as though she had seen a great piece of gossip. But it doesn't matter. Since he is a member of our school, we will be able to pull him into our Mecha Society sooner or later. She was confident of this. Either the other party did not join a battle team, or he would definitely join their Mecha Society. He has a very good relationship with Gao Tianxi. Gao Tianxi is also actively trying to pull him into the Tyrannical Sky Tiger battle team. If this matter is not settled as soon as possible, this talent will be wasted, Dawn said. As the vice president of the Mecha Society, she naturally had the ability to make such judgments. What you said is true. With me, the president, and you, two great beauties, I don't believe that the fellow will remain unmoved. Xiao Yuqin looked as though she was already planning on selling her beauty. However, people who knew her well knew that she was just joking. If someone really dared to have any nefarious thoughts towards her, her martial arts cultivation was not just for show. Who is so arrogant to actually need our president and vice president to personally take action? There's no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. I think it's best to leave this matter to me. Suddenly, Wang Yuetian, who had been listening for a long time, finally stood forward and recommended himself. His expression was filled with extreme confidence. Where did this punk come from? Did he dare to reject him? Wang Yuetian, can you do it? Xiao Yuqin said. Even Cece failed. Can you? Xiao Yuqin said as she shot a glance at Wang Yuetian. She knew what Wang Yuetian was planning. He just wanted to show off in front of Dawn. To her, this was a form of healthy competition. It was also beneficial to the Mecha Society. Don't worry, I will definitely bring him back, Wang Yuetian said lightly. As for failure, how could that happen to him? Yi Shiwen rejected Dawn's invitation and left the simulation room. Gao Tianxi quickly followed and jumped up and down beside him in a bid to pull Yi Shiwen into the Tyrannical Sky Tiger battle team. Yi Shiwen, if you join our Tyrannical Sky Tiger battle team, I will immediately introduce my sister to you today. Clearly, in order to pull Yi Shiwen into the Tyrannical Sky Tiger battle team, Gao Tianxi's character had been completely ruined. Suddenly, there was a flurry of footsteps in front. You are the Yi Shiwen. Chapter 23:17. You are the Yi Shiwen? Wang Yuetian looked at Yi Shiwen. He looked scholarly and weak. He did not look very strong either. He looked just like a literature nerd from many years ago. If he wore glasses, he would look even more like one. How could this person be the expert that Dawn mentioned? Just thinking of how Dawn had praised him in an exaggerated manner, Wang Yuetian felt an extreme discomfort in his heart. Over the years he had known Dawn Li, he had never received any praise from the short-statured girl. What right did this fellow have? Who are you? Yi Shiwen shot a glance at him. The boy's aura was not weak, but he did not know him. Wang Yuetian's face immediately turned black. He never expected that there would be someone in 8th high school who did not know him. Furthermore, from Yi Shiwen's expression, it did not seem fake. That was the most hurtful thing. However, when he thought of the history geek who spent his days in the library, he found it barely acceptable. The bookworm did not have any social circles, so it was normal that he did not know him. Wang Yuetian, what are you doing here? Gao Tianxi looked at Wang Yuetian and said warily. Wang Yuetian was also a member of the Mecha Society. Although he was not the vice president, he was one of the core members. Furthermore, he usually did not have any interactions with Yi Shiwen. For him to specially come to Yi Shiwen at this moment, it was obvious what he was up to. Wang Yuetian? Another famous figure in 8th high school. Like Gao Tianxi, he had a good family background and he was outstanding. He also had many supporters in 8th high school. However, this had nothing to do with him. I'm here to recruit him into the society. Wang Yuetian looked at Yi Shiwen and said. His expression was arrogant, as though he was doing charity. Our Mecha Society is the most outstanding society in 8th high school. Now, we are giving him a chance to join us. Yi Shiwen remained expressionless as he said nonchalantly, I'm not interested. Make way. Didn't you hear? A good dog doesn't block the way, Gao Tianxi said in a loud voice. He was naturally very happy in his heart when he saw that Yi Shiwen had rejected him once again. He and Wang Yuetian had always been at odds with each other. He had long since disliked Wang Yuetian's arrogance. Yi Shiwen, you have to think about it carefully. Our Mecha Society is one of the top clubs in the 8th high school. We are giving you this opportunity because we respect you. If you reject us, is this really okay? Wang Yuetian ignored Gao Tianxi and looked at Yi Shiwen with a gloomy expression. Is your Mecha Society so great that everyone has to join it? Gao Tianxi asked. Yi Shiwen raised his head, looked at Wang Yuetian, and said, Do you need me to say it again, or are your ears not good? As he spoke, he directly walked forward, passing by Wang Yuetian and the 3 students he had brought along. Wang Yuetian's complexion became slightly sinister, and he could no longer maintain his composure. In his heart, he did not want Yi Shiwen to join. It would be best if he did not join, but in his script, it should be Yi Shiwen kneeling on the ground and begging, and then he arrogantly rejected Yi Shiwen. However, Yi Shiwen did not play according to the script, and it was completely different from what he had imagined. Stop him, I said. Can you go now? Wang Yuetian's face turned red as he shouted. As soon as he gave the order, his 3 little brothers rushed towards Yi Shiwen like ferocious tigers. They had long been displeased with this arrogant guy. In the 8th high school, they were the only ones who could be arrogant. If anyone else dared to stand in front of them, then it would be no different than courting death. These people were also well versed in both the pen and the sword, and all of them had martial arts skills. Even the weakest among them was at the Hodian 7th or 8th stage. A claw grabbed, and there was a faint sound of breaking air. It was incomparably sharp, and the zhenqi vibrated in the air. Don't be so shameless. Yi Shiwen's palm instantly straightened into a knife hand, and like lightning, he chopped down at the claws of these 3 people. 3 sounds of flesh hitting flesh followed by the 3 people's blood-curdling screams. Ah! The 3 people screamed and clutched their shoulders. Their entire arms felt like they were going to fall off in an instant. They looked at Yi Shiwen in horror, as if they were looking at a monster. Idiot! Yi Shiwen said indifferently and strode forward. Gao Tianxi was startled for a moment, but then he quickly followed. He never knew that this good friend of his for a few years was actually so powerful, because there were no signs before this, and on the martial science results, It was only written that he was at the Hotian 7th stage. This was just above average strength, not very outstanding, especially when compared to his social sciences results, which was even more so. Now it seemed that his hidden strength was far more than that. Just now, he was still thinking about whether or not to go and help, but now it seemed that there was no need to do so. At this time, two teachers had already walked over to this side. One looked to be in his 40s or 50s with a bit of maturity, and the other was a female teacher in her 20s who looked like she had just joined the school not long ago. Her plump breasts bulged out from her snow-white t-shirt, and her slender legs looked even more straight and slender under the contrast of her jeans. "Why are they fighting in the school?" the female teacher said with a slight frown. "Moreover, so many people are bullying one person. This is too lawless. The school teaches them martial arts, not to let them use it to deal with their classmates. In fact, because everyone practiced martial arts in this era, it was easy to injure people, so the control was even stricter. Hey, Teacher Shuiyu, young people are hot-blooded. It is inevitable that there will be quarrels. Isn't this a very normal thing?" The middle-aged teacher was very calm, as if he did not see anything at all. "You just joined the school as an intern. There are a lot of things you don't know. Now, just watch carefully." "How can I do that? These guys are too arrogant." Shuiyu's red lips slightly opened and said. At this time, she also saw that the school's teaching director Rinchong was biased towards the side with more people, and her heart was filled with anger. Good. Wang Yuetian was so angry that he shouted again and again. Because of the movement here, more and more people gathered around, making him feel that his face was burning hot, and he was feeling more and more embarrassed. "I said, you can't leave." Wang Yuetian was furious, originally planning to find a way to prevent Yi Shiwen from joining the Mecha Society, but now he had already thrown it to the back of his mind, and the only thing left in his eyes was anger. He directly pointed his finger at Yi Shiwen's head, and in his anger, he did not care about anything else, and directly used a killing move. Xiantian Jinqi suddenly shot out, causing a violent vibration in the air. "Wang Yuetian, you despicable!" Gao Tianxi was the first to react, and a powerful Xiantian Jinqi caused the surrounding air to violently fluctuate. "Yi Shiwen, be careful. That is the Wang family's secret skill, Rui Finger." Not waiting for him to attack, Yi Shiwen directly turned his head and chopped down with his hand, immediately breaking Wang Yuetian's Rui Finger, making it look like a joke. "I said, don't be so shameless. Since you want to humiliate yourself, then don't blame me for being impolite." Yi Shiwen coldly snorted, and like lightning, his figure rotated, and his pace was extremely fast, and his palm covered Wang Yuetian's face. "Pa!" A loud slap sounded, and Wang Yuetian was sent flying on the spot, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. The Xiantian Jinqi he had used to protect his body was instantly smashed by Yi Shiwen, and it did not have the slightest effect. On the spot, there was a sound of cold air being sucked in, and everyone was wondering what they had seen. Wang Yuetian was a famous Xiantian master in the school, but he had actually been sent flying with a single slap. Needless to say, Wang Yuetian's strength naturally belonged to the top few in the 8th high school, and even many teachers were not necessarily his match. In order to become a high school teacher, the minimum requirement was to be at the Hotian 9th layer, or even a master of Xiantian realm, and Wang Yuetian's strength had already surpassed that of ordinary teachers, but he had still been sent flying by a single slap from Yi Shiwen. Were they dreaming? Everyone suspected that they must have seen wrongly, and they must have seen wrongly. Otherwise, how could such an unscientific and unreasonable thing happen? But no matter how hard they tried to blink, they found that the scene in front of them had not changed. Shuiyu's eyes suddenly lit up such a swift and fierce method, just a simple hand chop, and the Rui Finger was broken cleanly. It did not seem difficult, but it required a strength that was completely above Wang Yuetian's. Otherwise, it was simply impossible. Wang Yuetian's strength had undoubtedly reached the Xiantian 1st layer, or even the Xiantian 2nd layer, but he was still suppressed to the point where he had no power to fight back. This student had given her a big surprise. To be able to break through to the Xiantian realm at this age, almost all of them were rich, powerful, and had a powerful background. They had received all kinds of training since childhood, and the resources they received were far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Could it be that this student was also like this? But looking at him, wearing a washed-out school uniform, he did not seem to be very rich. Idiot! Yi Shiwen glanced at Wang Yuetian, who was lying on the ground, and was too lazy to even look at him. Although the opposite party had said that he had come to invite someone, but this was not the attitude one should have when inviting someone. Obviously, this guy had no intention of letting him enter the mecha society. What is your name? In broad daylight, you injured a fellow student. Do you still have a little bit of discipline and regulations? Suddenly, a loud roar resounded, and an angry figure pounced over, bringing along a strong astral wind, and like lightning, a leg was swung towards Yi Shiwen. Because this person's speed was too fast, no one was able to see clearly. They only saw that the leg had already been swung towards Yi Shiwen, as fast as lightning. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.